Chapter 984. Brother Bao, were 2F * King unlucky. Hu Zi grumbled as he chopped down the bushes in front of him. Why is it raining so heavily for no reason? Bao Song glared at him. Isn't this your fault? Didn't you say that you know the situation in the mountains like the back of your hand? Didn't you feel anything when it rained so heavily? Hu Zi scratched his head. Speaking of which, it's strange. Usually, when my dad and I go hunting in the mountains, we can smell the moisture in the air with just a twitch of our noses. We can tell if it's going to rain, or how heavy it will be. But today when we got out of the car and ran, I smelled it. There were almost no clouds in the sky, and there were no signs of rain. Look, there aren't any clouds yet. This weather is too weird. Stop talking nonsense and lead the way. Brother Bao, why don't we think of a way to go back? The rain can wash away the footprints we left earlier, and the police dogs don't like our smell. This is a good thing, but it's also a bad thing. The road has become more difficult to walk. Based on the current situation, we might not be able to reach Maji town in another 10 hours. I'm not afraid, but I'm afraid that you guys and this woman won't be able to hold on. Hu Zi pointed to Shilu, who was surrounded by the crowd. She was limping, and her face was covered in rain and mud. She looked extremely pathetic. When it rains, it pours. Shilu's luck index today was as high as 10,000 points. When she was walking just now, she accidentally slipped and fell, and her ankle might have been sprained. Now, not to mention suddenly running away, it took all her strength just to stand. Bao Song looked at Shilu impatiently. Jiang Yage, hurry up. Don't dilly-dally, or I'll shoot you and let you feed the wolves here, believe it or not. Shilu trembled. She knew that she had been made a scapegoat, but she didn't expose her identity. Instead, she gritted her teeth without saying a word, and forced herself to keep up with Hu Zi's pace. She lowered her head and didn't make a sound. Hu Zi turned back and said, Brother Bao, don't make such jokes when we're in the mountains. What joke? Don't talk about wolves. Although the most ferocious beasts in this mountain are bears and tigers, the biggest threat to humans is the wolf pack. They form groups and attack from the front and back, unlike lone bears. Some wolves aren't even afraid of gunshots when their ferocious nature kicks in. Dan Song curled his lips nonchalantly. I'm just saying. I won't really come. Sigh, if you believe it. It won't work if you don't believe it. When we're in the mountains, we have to be careful with our words. Alright, I won't say anything. Do we continue forward or go back? Tiger asked again. Wang Song hesitated for a moment, then took out his phone. He thought that if he walked further in, his phone would probably lose signal. Should he call his father and ask what the situation was like outside? If he scolded her, she would just beg for mercy. If he scolded her too harshly and she didn't listen, she would just hang up and turn off her phone. Let me ask about my dad first. Saying so, Wang Song turned on his phone. Before he could unlock it, the caller ID lit up. It was Ma Song, the captain of Tong Yuan's bodyguards. Perhaps he had been calling nonstop for the past hour. Picking up the call, Ma Song's voice came through. Boss, it's connected. Master Wang has turned on his phone. Give me the phone. This was Wang Fatai's voice. Hearing his father's tone, Wang Song subconsciously wanted to beg for mercy again. Dad. Wang Fatai interrupted Wang Song. You little rascal. Do you know how big of a disaster you've gotten yourself into? Wang Song was a little indignant. It's not a big deal. I just kidnapped a female celebrity. It's not like I haven't done it before. You still have the cheek to say it. Why can't I say it? Dad, don't worry. I know the psychology of these celebrities very well. As long as I don't break her arms or legs, she won't be able to make a fart if she still wants to earn money in the future. Don't be fooled by how innocent they pretend to be in front of others. God knows how many masters they have to serve in a year. For people like them, no matter how much I torture them, they won't make a fuss. Otherwise, their reputation will be in tatters. I'll record a video of her later. She's even more afraid than I am. ****. Moneybag was about to go crazy from anger. What kind of situation was this? His stupid son was still saying such reckless words. He remembered what county magistrate who had told him just now. Although he still didn't know Jiang Yage's identity, it was impossible for the two top military and political leaders of Kainan province to call him at the same time. If county magistrate who could say that if she lost a hair, he, as the county magistrate, would have to run away. And if Jiang Yage lost a hair, he would have to shoot Peng and Song. Then her background must be beyond his imagination. Dad, don't be like this. If you only know how to scold me, I'll switch off my phone again. Wait. Hearing that his unlucky and stupid son was going to switch off his phone again, Wang Fatai was afraid of him. His tone became gentler. Son, listen to me. Wang Song's heart skipped a beat when he heard that Wang Fatai's tone had become unprecedentedly gentle. An inexplicable sense of danger rose in his heart, and he could no longer be tough. Instead, he felt a little flustered. Dad, what happened? Wang Fatai's tone became gentler. It's all my fault. I spoiled you too much, and that's why you developed such a personality. I used to think that it was all your mother's fault, but now that I think about it, I'm no better. Dad, don't interrupt me. Listen, time is of the essence, so I'll make it short. Run away now and don't come back. The further the better. Is it that serious? I'm not joking with you. Jiang Yage has a powerful background. Even if you return her unharmed, I'm afraid things won't end well. According to some people, you have to be killed on the spot for the rest of us to survive. I'm already prepared to run away. Don't look back either. The further the better. County head who had misjudged Wang Fatai. All along, Wang Fatai had always been decisive and strict with Wang Song in the eyes of outsiders. As a result, County head Hu and the others felt that he didn't have much affection for his good-for-nothing son. That was why County head Hu had blurted out that he wanted to kill Wang Song in advance. He had even hoped that Wang Fatai would have some way to contact Wang Song and calm him down before taking action himself. But Wang Fatai would never eat his cubs. All along, he was the one who was most protective of his cubs. His wife was just a way for him to save face. No matter how much he tried to push the blame onto his wife, if it wasn't for him, the head of the household, who had turned a blind eye to it, and helped Bang and Song clean up his mess every time, how could he have raised such a foolish son, who didn't care about the consequences? Oh, all right. Wang Song looked at Shi Lu's back view. The smugness and desire in his heart had mostly dissipated. Perhaps it was because of the cold rain on his head, or perhaps it was because he was frightened by Wang Fatai's words. Wait, Wang Fatai suddenly said. What's wrong? Wait a moment. The armed police and the county's police should be entering the mountains soon. I've asked around, and they have police dogs with them. You might not be able to escape. What? Then what should I do? Tell me your current location. I'll bring some people to meet up with you. If they really catch up, we'll fight them for a while. But what? But the real scary thing isn't the police. It's Chen Guang. Wang, you've watched wuxia dramas before, right? Chen Guang is the kind of hero in the dramas who kills a person every 10 steps and leaves no trace behind. You must be wary of him. Don't think that you'll be safe just because you have a gun. That's impossible, right? Look at the situation now. Do you think I'm joking with you? I'm going to risk my life to fight someone for you. Stop talking nonsense. Tell me your location. Wang Fatai, who was sitting in the Bentley, gritted his teeth. He thought of the big guns in his trunk and decided to go all out. Wang Song hurriedly called Tiger over and told him their current location, as well as the approximate route they had chosen at the last minute. The father and son hung up the phone. Ma Song, who was sitting beside Wang Fatai, asked doubtfully, Boss, are we really going to do this? Wang Fatai stared at him fiercely. What else can we do? Watch my son die in front of you? I still have a lot of assets overseas. As long as we escape, as long as there's life, we won't have to worry about young Chai. Otherwise, even if we really shoot Wang down, I'm afraid we'll still be hunted down later. If Hu Jintao wants to escape, then even Master won't be able to protect us tomorrow. We have to rely on ourselves. Brother Bun, what did your dad say? Tiger quickly asked Wang Song. Wang Song gritted his teeth. What else can we do? Run. We can't go back to Baishui County now. If we go back, we'll really die. We've stirred up a hornet's nest. That's right, that woman is a hornet's nest. He pointed at Shi Lu's back and said, Just follow the route you told my dad just now. He'll be waiting for us in the car with his men. We won't go to Maji town. How long do you think it'll take for us to reach the mountain road? 3 hours if we're fast, 4 if we're slow. That's fine. As long as we meet up with my dad before they catch up, we'll be able to escape. Don't stop. Hurry up. Stupid woman, you better hurry up too. I'm dead because of you this time. You have such a powerful background, why are you hiding it? If you had told me earlier, would I have attacked you? It's all your fault that we ended up like this. Wang Qinsong took 2 steps forward and wanted to lift his leg to kick Shilu. Unexpectedly, Shilu quickened her pace and took a step forward, causing him to kick the air. The rain and wind caused the temperature to drop exceptionally low. After walking for a long time, the pain in her ankle was so numb that she couldn't feel it. A strong desire to live supported every inch of space in her mind. Shilu's steps became firmer and faster, and she was just barely able to keep up with the others. Her determination temporarily saved her life. Since she had already decided to escape, once she showed any signs of not being able to keep up, dragging the others down, or showing signs of wanting to escape, Wang Qinsong would shoot her without hesitation. Chapter 985. What county magistrate who did not know was that his momentary lapse in secrecy had allowed Fortune Bringer to take the risk to protect Tong and Song. Big Beard Deng would not have expected that his decision to conceal the hostage's identity would not only fail to help Shilu, but also put her in danger. If county magistrate who knew that the hostage was not Jiang Yage, he would not have had the idea of killing Tong and Song, and would have communicated with Fortune Bringer about the matter. As long as Tong and Song was sure that Shilu had not suffered any substantial injuries, he could easily persuade Tong and Song to return her to the rightful owner. After that, he could kowtow and beg for mercy and pay compensation. He could turn a big problem into a small one, and a small one into nothing. As long as Tong and Song was fine, there was room for discussion. Of course, Chen Guang was also the reason why Fortune Bringer made up his mind. After all, he had seen how martial artists killed without saying a word. Since Chen Guang had stood up for Jiang Yage at the wine table yesterday, it meant that Jiang Yage had a special place in his heart. Apart from Jiang Yage's background, as long as a woman touched a martial artist, there was only one word in his dictionary: death. In short, as long as he wanted to protect Tong and Song's life, he had no choice as a father. How did you find the direction just now? Jiang Yage was still lying on Chen Guang's back, the wind blowing on her face. She could not help but ask curiously. Chen Guang's heart was heavy, but he joked with Jiang Yage. Didn't you listen to my chant? This is a very advanced martial art that I've cultivated. It's similar to 1,000 miles sound transmission, and it stimulates the guidance of spiritual energy to find the spiritual energy left behind by that group of people when they pass by. It's all kinds of emotions, such as fear and nervousness. It's also mentioned in approaching science. When a person's brain is in a state of thought and emotional fluctuation, it will release brain waves. This kind of brain wave will affect the things around him. It's very weak, but it can leave traces. I can see it. Old Master Guang was getting more and more familiar with swindling people, and he could easily make up lies. Swindling, continue swindling. What kind of damned incantation is that? Mother Earth is tricking me. May the holy light guide me. You think I've never played World of Warcraft before? You put the druid and the paladin together. Jiang Yage saw through Chen Guang's scheme. Old Master Guang felt extremely awkward. How could he not be slippery when he often walked by the river? He had used too many tricks, but he didn't expect to meet someone who knew the ropes and exposed him on the spot. I made up the incantation, but I can't explain it to you. What's important isn't the incantation I recited, but my thoughts at the time. Sincerity brings results, okay? Forget it. Anyway, it's not the first day I've known you. You're always talking big. Oh right, how long will it take to catch up? 10 minutes at most, Chen Guang said resolutely. In a sense, he wasn't bluffing Jiang Yage. What he said was true. Previously, when he sensed that the power of the Holy Grail in this world had become exceptionally rich, his Earth Exploder's special ability had become extremely active. This was because the Holy Grail's power which could replace the origin energy, was constantly being converted into abundant elemental energy. Although it couldn't be compared to the soul world that he was in during the second punishment world, it was enough to support the absorption of the Earth Exploder's special ability and recover a portion of its power. Of course, ever since the end of the second punishment world, Chen Guang's Earth Exploder ability had been slowly recovering. When he killed Ouyang Tianxing, he had devoured the remaining power of the Broken World Holy Tribe, which was a huge supplement. Until now, thanks to the continuous invisible strengthening of the Holy Grail's power, his Earth Exploder ability had finally crossed a threshold. The most typical example was that he could finally try to communicate with the elemental energy of the outside world. Just now, in order to find a way to continue tracking them, he had racked his brains. First, he tried to communicate with the heaven and earth chi as a martial sage, which was the intuition of a martial artist. He then tried to use the earth-based special ability to communicate with the elemental energy. Both methods had some effect, but the answer he got was not certain. Suddenly, he had an idea and simply merged the two abilities together. While circulating his inner strength, he also tried to mobilize the special ability of the Earth Exploder. After a short attempt, he actually found the feeling. The guidance of the earth element became clearer, as though there was someone standing in front of him, constantly telling him, "Here, here, same here." In order to avoid having to explain the principles to Jiang Yage, he casually made up a heart sutra to muddle through. He did not expect to go for wool and come home shorn. However, this was not important. What was important was that he would soon be able to find the people and save Shi Lu. 5 minutes later, Chen Guang finally completely passed through the section of the road where the footprints of Wound Song and the rest had been washed away by the rain. This was the place where they had passed when it started raining. From there, the soil became muddy and their footprints became clear. At that moment, Chen Guang also discovered a new problem. There is an extra pair of footprints. What happened? The shoes are small. It should be that Shi Lu was put down for a period of time and walked on her own. Then why didn't she escape? This dark forest is easy to escape from. This is deep in the forest and there might be ferocious beasts around. She is a girl and did not bring any survival tools with her. She also has no way to communicate with the outside world. Even if she escaped, she might not survive. Of course, it is more likely that Wound Song and the rest have guns in their hands, and she can't escape. The two of them chased for a distance before Chen Guang said, "Shi Lu twisted her ankle here. She is injured." "Ah, these be asterisk starts." Chen Guang comforted her. "Don't worry, it will be over soon. There is good news. At least it means that Shi Lu has not suffered any major losses. They are also panicking when they escape, and have no time to do anything to Shi Lu." Jiang Yage nodded. "I hope so." Further ahead, Wound Song's group of 9 and Shi Lu, who were supposed to be escaping in a panic, stopped in their tracks and looked ahead with a face full of fear. Dark green lights were slowly rising from the dense forest in front of them like fireflies. These firefly lights were in pairs and most of them were less than half a meter from the ground. A low, hoarse groan came from all directions, accompanied by the sound of rustling. The heavy rain was still pouring, but it could not cover up these strange sounds. The starlight and moonlight were still shining brightly in the sky, but it made everyone feel even more fearful in the shadows. The green lights were getting denser and denser. They were in all 4 directions of the dense forest. Hu Zi took out his saber from his waist. His teeth were chattering. Brother Bao wolf pack. What a huge wolf pack. He would never forget the story his father told him. Never run around in this forest in the middle of the night, because you would never know when the wild wolves would quietly surround you. They were 100 times scarier than lone bears, tigers and wild boars. Your grandfather, your great-grandfather, your great-great-grandfather, they all died in the hands of the wolf pack. Hu Zi licked his lips. Dad, you forgot to mention one person. That's yourself. Am I coming too now? Such a huge wolf pack was beyond his knowledge. Shi Lu instinctively wanted to hide in the middle of the crowd. She was so nervous that her legs were trembling, and she had no strength left in her. Everyone stand up straight. We cannot fall. We must not fall. The wolves are more cunning than you think. They have quietly surrounded us. They haven't attacked us yet, because we seem to be in good spirits. However, once someone falls down, they will think that we are weak. They will rush up and bite us to death without hesitation. I have never seen such a huge wolf pack. There are at least 70 to 80 of them. There might be more lurking around the perimeter. There are hundreds of them. There must be an extremely powerful wolf king in this pack. The intelligence and strength of such a wolf king is at least a few times that of a normal alpha wolf. Hu Zi shouted loudly, trying his best to make his voice sound powerful. He was bluffing. Shi Lu pinched her thighs tightly. 2 streams of tears mixed with the rainwater flowed down to the ground. There were too many wolves. Am I going to die here in the end? Hu Zi, what should we do now? Nanan Song clenched the gun in his hand tightly. His breathing was as heavy as a bellow. He would never have thought that his casual joke would become a prophecy. Although he was not a hunter, as a native of Whitewater River County, he knew how terrifying a pack of hundreds of wolves was. Hu Zi's eyes turned rapidly. He frantically searched his mind for the survival method taught by his ancestors. His eyes looked around frantically. It was impossible to rush out. There was only one way. That was to climb up the tree and wait for others to bring heavy firepower to rescue them. His eyes drifted to a foot-thick tree about 4 to 5 meters away from the group. This was a dense forest. There were many trees around them that they could climb. The tree that Hu Zi had chosen was rather large. It was not the closest one, but because of its special branches, it was the easiest to climb. The rainwater had made the tree somewhat slippery, but with the hook at his waist, he should be able to climb up. If he moved faster, he could probably pull Brother Meow up as well. As for the others, the 8 immortals crossed the sea and each displayed their own abilities. Everyone prayed for their own luck. After all, as long as Brother Meow's life was preserved, his father would definitely come to rescue him. However, they couldn't act rashly now. Once they showed any signs of escaping, the cunning wolves would definitely pounce on them in an instant. At that time, shooting would be of no use. Blood would only stimulate the wolves' ferocious nature. As long as the Wolf King did not die, it would not care about the lives of the weak wolves in the vanguard. It would only command the other wolves to attack like waves. Brother Meow, I have an idea. Say it. Nanan Song was burning with anxiety. Hu Zi pointed to Shi Lu, who was in the middle of the group. Let her take a stick and go to the front. We'll take the opportunity to climb up the tree. Shi Lu finally broke down. No. Nanan Song did not listen to her explanation. He turned and pointed the gun at her. You choose. Either you run forward with all your might. You might be able to escape, or I'll shoot you dead. Hu Zi admired Nanan Song's decisiveness. He thought that if it were him, he would really be reluctant to sacrifice such a delicate superstar. What a pity. But it was fine. Her flesh was more tender, and the wolves liked it more. Shi Lu faced the gun and looked at Nanan Song's ferocious expression. Give her a stick. Nanan Song pouted and said, I'll give you 3 seconds to consider. Either you run out yourself, or I'll shoot you dead and throw your corpse out. To me the effect is the same. Hu Zi secretly gestured to Nanan Song. Nanan Song and Hu Zi understood each other. In fact, that was what he had planned to do. When Jiang Yage ran a few steps forward and was about to reach the wolves, he would shoot her from behind. At that time, the blood splashing from her body would definitely attract all the attention of the wolves in a short time. Shi Lu knew that she had no other choice. She took the metal stick from a man and held it tightly in her hand. She wanted to live, not die. Taking a deep breath, she yelled crazily and waved her iron rod. She staggered and rushed towards the wolves step by step. Sure enough, the wolves' attention was attracted to her. The howling became louder, and the green glow under the night sky became lower. Hu Zi saw the opportunity and gave Nanan Song a look. He then shouted in a low voice, Brothers, quickly think of a way to climb up the tree. These trees are very old, and there are many scars on them. Just dig, and you'll be able to climb up. It's very easy to climb. Without caring about the others, Hu Zi turned and quickly ran towards the tree he had chosen earlier. Nanan Song followed closely while the others pounced on the nearest tree. They didn't care about the size of the tree. They grabbed a tree and tried to climb up. Huzi took out a metal hook from his waist and held it in his hands. He used each hand to hit the tree trunk and climbed up. "Don't worry, Brother Nan. I'll pull you up when I get up." Huzi lowered his voice and said to Nanan-song behind him. Nanan-song nodded. He turned around and aimed the flashlight and muzzle at Shilu's figure. He narrowed his eyes and said, "I understand. Hurry up." Shilu's heart beat faster and faster. The wolves in front of her became clearer under the dim moonlight. There seemed to be someone shining a flashlight in their direction. These wolves had grayish-black fur, white fangs, sharp claws, and cold eyes. Their tails were pointed towards the ground. The fur on their tails was straight like steel needles, even under the beating of the rain. They were getting closer and closer. "I'm going to die. I can't take this lying down." Shilu shouted even louder. Her thin and slender hands exploded with unprecedented strength. She waved the metal rod in her hands so hard that it was even louder than the sound of the rain, wind, and the wolves' howls. A loud howl came from the back of the pack of wolves. This was the Wolf King blowing the horn to attack. The wolves immediately responded in unison. Their ear-piercing howls pierced through the air. The wolves in front of Shilu were the fastest. They first lowered their bodies slightly, then exerted force with their hind legs and sprang forward. Nanan-song used his left ring and middle fingers to hold the flashlight. His left index finger supported the bottom of his right wrist. His right hand had never been so steady. The black muzzle was aimed at Shilu's back. There was only a crazed light in his eyes. He slowly increased the strength of his right index finger. Definitely, he had to hit her in one shot. Chapter 986. Bang! The bullet pierced through the air and went straight for the back of Shilu's head. Shilu did not know anything. She was swinging the metal rod in her hand at the wolf in front of her. She was still dreaming of beating the wolf to death and then running away. She believed that humans had potential. In a desperate situation, they could explode with strength that surpassed the limits of humans. Unfortunately, she was just a mortal and her potential was limited. She did not know that there was a fatal bullet flying towards the back of her head. The speed of a bullet from a handgun was about the speed of sound. She would probably be dead the moment she heard the gunshot. As for Nanan-song, he did not look at Shilu's situation after shooting. Instead, he turned around and took the rope that Huzi threw down from the tree. He held onto it tightly and arched his back, preparing to climb up the tree. The feel of this shot was too good. It made him very confident. He was glad that he did not waste his time when he had the chance to practice shooting in the past. He thought that he was quite talented in this. Poof! At this moment, a muffled sound came from Shilu's direction. Nanan-song thought that Jiang Yage was probably dead. He then turned to look at Shilu's direction. The next moment he was stunned. Shilu was still standing there, but she had already turned her head. Even though the night was dim, Nanan-song could tell that her head had not exploded. She was indeed looking back at him. What was going on? What was going on? Why wasn't she dead? Did I miss? That was impossible. The wolf pack was still pouncing towards Shilu. They bared their teeth and were unusually fierce. But the strange thing was that every time these wolves got close to Shilu, they would howl and fly backwards without warning. It was as if something had hit them on the head, or as if they had hit an invisible wall. What the hell? Nanan-song was so shocked that he even forgot to climb up the tree. The wolf pack was also ferocious. The harder it was to bite Shilu, the more they pounced on her. Even the wolves that were originally pouncing towards Nanan-song and the others changed their direction and went straight for Shilu. The angry howls of the Wolf King did not stop. It was probably the Wolf King secretly commanding the pack of wolves. "Brother Wan, hurry up," Huzi urged from the tree. Nanan-song looked around and realized that the pack of wolves pouncing from behind had gone straight for Jiang Yage. His heart calmed down a little. "Wait, I must kill her. Brother Bao, what time is this? It's better for her to live longer. Come up quickly," Huzi urged him again. At this time, the other people who were unable to climb up the tree due to the slippery trunk also reacted, and one by one, they told Nanan-song not to shoot. Nanan-song unwillingly put away his gun and turned around to climb up the tree. At this moment, a tall figure came from afar in the wind and stopped in front of Jiang Yage. The figure was so fast that the strong wind and rainwater that he brought with him hit Nong Song's body, causing his body to tilt subconsciously. He leaned against the tree trunk to barely stand up. Nong Song's pupils constricted, and he forgot to climb up the tree. He swung his hand and aimed the flashlight in the direction of the black shadow. Chen Guang. In the distance, Chen Guang was standing with his hands behind his back. On his back, a girl was quickly sliding down. Then, Nong Song saw the girl's face clearly from afar. It was Jiang Yage. What was going on? There were two Jiang Yages. But very quickly, his attention was attracted by Chen Guang. Compared to the strange situation of two Jiang Yages, the current Chen Guang was even more terrifying. At this moment, this hero of the pugilistic world, who his father said killed a person every 10 steps and left no trace for 1,000 miles, was looking at him indifferently with a pair of extremely cold eyes. From the other party's eyes, Nong Song seemed to read an emotion. He wasn't looking at a person but a corpse. Unknowingly, Nong Song's hair stood on end. An unprecedented sense of danger arose in his heart, as if he would be beheaded in the next moment. The pack of wolves was still madly pouncing in the direction of the three people. But no matter how fiercely they pounced, they hit an invisible wall and couldn't move an inch. The rain above the three of them was splashing in the air, forming a semicircular cover that slowly flowed down. This semicircular cover was the barrier that blocked the advance of the pack of wolves. Brother Nong, hurry up. Sitting on the tree with his back facing Shilu, Hu Zi didn't know what was happening. He was still desperately urging Nong Song to pull him up. The others, regardless of whether they were on the tree or not, were all staring blankly in the direction of Chen Guang. Only then did Hu Zi realize something was wrong. He turned his head and then froze on the tree, forgetting to continue pulling the rope. My God! Nong Song finally broke free from his fear. He raised his hand and gun and shouted hysterically, "Kill him! Kill him!" Bang, bang, bang. He aimed his gun in the direction of Chen Guang and pulled the trigger crazily. The other two people also took out their guns from their pockets and fired in the direction of Chen Guang. But something that made them feel despair happened. In the distance, Chen Guang still had his left hand behind his back, but he stretched out his right hand with his palm facing forward and his 5 fingers spread out. A silent but visible vibration was emitted from his palm, causing the water that was slowly flowing down the wall to scatter in all directions. Under the light of the flashlight, the water droplets that were blown away were crystal clear and extremely alluring. But under this different kind of beauty, there was a scene that made people despair. All the bullets that were shot by the 3 pistols, other than the ones that flew off, were all shot in the right direction. It was as if they had shot into a transparent quagmire, quietly floating in the air in front of Chen Guang's 5 fingers. The scattered bullets seemed to be embedded in the invisible air barrier in front of Chen Guang. Click-click sounds came one after another. He didn't know when, but the gun in Nong Song's hand had already fired all the bullets. The gun barrel was burning hot, but his heart was piercingly cold. Similar sounds came from the direction of the other 2 gunmen. There were no more bullets. Unfortunately, their crazy shooting had no effect. Chen Guang was still in the same posture with his right hand in front of him, but the bullets floating in front of him had become more numerous. Rainwater continued to pour down from above the dense forest, hitting the circular energy cover before flowing down. When it passed by the bullet floating in the air, it was sliced to the sides, but then flowed through the middle of the bullet in an extremely orderly circular arc. Time seemed to have completely stopped at this moment. Even Jiang Yage, who was standing behind Chen Guang, and Shilu, who was sitting paralyzed on the ground and turned her head to look in this direction, were completely stunned. There was no sound between heaven and earth. Not even the rain dared to come close. Perhaps only the wolf pack, who didn't know what was happening, was still madly attacking in vain. Nong Song unknowingly dropped the gun in his hand and knelt on the ground. "I beg you, don't kill me. I know I was wrong. I beg you." He finally completely believed what his father had said. There really were heroes in this world. In a sense, The power that Chen Guang had displayed was even more terrifying than the heroes in television dramas. It was almost like immortal arts and evil arts. He finally understood why the first Jiang Yage didn't die after the first shot. It must have been because he shot a drop of water from afar that caused the bullet to deviate. Why was I so stupid? How could I dare to provoke such a person? He knelt on the ground and hammered his head into the mud in front of him again and again. The others weren't much better. They all followed Nong Song's actions and knelt on the ground, kowtowing crazily. Even the wolf pack, which had never stopped attacking, was forgotten by these people. Chen Guang's attention wasn't on them. He just waved his hand impatiently. Beg for mercy. It's too late. He flicked the fingers of his right hand, as if he was shooing away flies. The bullets floating in front of him instantly turned around and flew backward, even faster than when he fired the gun. The effect of fusing the dart technique with the release of inner strength was unexpectedly good. It was accurate, fast, and ruthless, and it even had the range effect of multiple shots. 9 consecutive sounds of flesh being pierced were heard, and a bloody hole suddenly appeared between the eyebrows of Dan and Song, Hu Zi, and the others. Then, they didn't even have the time to scream before they silently fell to the ground. Those who had already climbed up the tree fell with their heads up and fell to the ground like a piece of torn cloth. There was no more sound. Jiang Yage and Shi Lu both covered their mouths. The 2 girls didn't expect Chen Guang to kill them so decisively. Alright, stop daydreaming here. It's not over yet. It's just a few bastards that died. It's not worth mentioning. Chen Guang turned around and waved his hand casually. As Jiang Yage helped Shi Lu up, she asked in confusion, "Aren't these wolves unable to pounce on us? What's there to be afraid of?" Chen Guang rolled his eyes. "You think it's easy for me? Inner strength is free. Cabbages. These wolves aren't simple." As Chen Guang spoke, he pulled the 2 behind him and looked around with a serious expression. Jiang Yage muttered to herself, "What's so strange about it? Aren't they just wild huskies?" Of course, she only thought about it in her heart. She wouldn't say it out loud. Shi Lu clenched her fists and curled up behind Chen Guang. Her heart was pounding. Just now, when she was about to swing the stick at the wild wolf in front of her, she heard a poof at the back of her head. Then, a gust of wind brushed past her face. Something flew past her ear and cut off a chunk of her hair. Almost at the same time, she heard a gunshot and knew that Wang Song had shot at her. But at this moment, she still didn't know why the bullets missed. Just as she turned back to look at Nong Song, under the illumination of Nong Song's flashlight, she saw with her own eyes 2 water droplets shooting from the side behind her, hitting the heads of the wolves that were pouncing over and sending these terrifying beasts flying. Only then did she understand that someone had used the water droplets to help her block the bullets. Then, Chen Guang carried Jiang Yage on his back and descended from the sky. Then, Jiang Yage came down from his back. Jiang Yage had just landed on the ground when gunshots rang out again. This time they came from more than one direction. At that time, Shi Lu thought that the 3 of them were going to die. But Chen Guang, who was standing at the front, just opened his hands, and the bullets stopped abruptly in front of them. Before she could react to what was going on, the bullets flew out again. Wang Song and the others, who were extremely vicious in her eyes, died on the spot. All of this happened too quickly and didn't give her much time to think. Shi Lu, don't worry. It's fine. With him here we're very safe. Even if the sky falls, he can hold it up. Jiang Yage, who was supporting Shi Lu, said with a smile. She didn't take the wolves in front of the 3 of them seriously. Awa! The Wolf King's howl sounded again. But it wasn't an order to retreat. Instead, it was like a war drum to boost the morale of 2 armies. The wolves that were advancing in waves were getting closer. They didn't show any signs of retreating. Instead, they became even crazier. Under the Wolf King's command, the wolves didn't attack the 9 corpses on the ground. Instead, they continued to surround Chen Guang and the other 2. More and more wolves were densely packed. It was a sight that made one's teeth ache. Chen Guang, hurry up and kill them. Jiang Yage didn't understand why Chen Guang looked like he was facing a great enemy. Although the wolves were scary to ordinary people, She didn't think that these big dogs could pose a threat to him. However, Chen Guang paid no attention to her and continued to look at the wolves. Actually, before he came closer, he had a faint feeling that something was wrong. If there was really nothing strange about these wolves, when he flicked the water droplets over with his fingers, even the smallest water droplets should have been able to smash the skulls of these wolves. But the reality was that even though these wolves were sent flying, they rolled on the ground twice and were covered in mud. Then, they shook their heads and stood up again. They recovered quickly and continued to attack. Chen Guang focused his attention and kept the internal energy and superpower in his body in a highly active state. He sensed an extremely familiar scent from these wolves. It was elemental energy. It was extremely complicated and not strong. It was much weaker than Ouyang Tianxing's, but it existed objectively. The elemental energy in the world that was transformed from the power of the Holy Grail was too rich. The elemental energy in these wolves was even richer. They had mutated. At this moment Shi Lu, who was supported by Jiang Yage, heard Jiang Yage talk to Chen Guang like that, and felt an indescribable sense of envy in her heart. But she knew that it was useless. Jiang Yage and Chen Guang had known each other when they were down and out. They were true friends who had gone through thick and thin. Now that Chen Guang had made a name for himself and changed his identity, the gap between them was too big. If she wanted to be like Jiang Yage and take the initiative to get close to him, even if she had a clear conscience, it would still be inappropriate in the eyes of others and even him. Just the ability that he had displayed now made him like the stars in the sky. Although she was considered beautiful in the eyes of ordinary people, she was ultimately just a mortal on the ground. There was a saying that went, "You can only blame yourself for not being able to meet again." The Wolf King howled again, but it was different from before. This time it was much closer. It seemed like it was not satisfied with hiding behind the pack of wolves, and chose to go into battle personally. In the blink of an eye, a giant wolf about 1.5 meters tall and 2 meters long, so large that it did not look like a wolf, but more like a tiger, slowly walked out from the path that the pack of wolves had opened up. Under the moonlight and the rain, its silver-white fur glistened and faintly had a metallic luster. This was a rare mutated silver wolf. Unlike other wild wolves that walked around with their teeth bared, this Wolf King only opened its mouth from time to time and revealed its eerie white teeth. Its steps were slow but firm. Its front paws were extremely strong and were thicker than a human's thigh. The front paws that were exposed were like sharp daggers that easily cut through the gravel where its paws landed. Even Jiang Yage, who was originally very confident in Chen Guang, held her breath when she saw this Wolf King. She did not dare to rashly disturb Chen Guang. Chapter 987. With the appearance of the Silver Wolf King, the morale of the other wolves was boosted. Previously, the wolves were almost exhausted, but now they recovered quite a bit. Following behind the Silver Wolf King, 8 huge wolves that were much taller and stronger than the other wolves appeared. They were only slightly smaller than the Silver Wolf King. These 8 huge wolves looked extraordinary as well, and the colors of their fur were different. Some of the huge wolves were pitch black, but it wasn't the normal kind of black. Instead, it seemed to absorb all the light around it. If it wasn't for its green eyes and the white teeth in its open mouth, ordinary people wouldn't even notice the existence of this wolf. There were also other huge wolves that were scarlet, blue, or green. They almost took up all the colors of the rainbow. Including the ink black wolf, there were exactly 8 of them. What's going on with these wolves? This time, it was Shi Lu's turn to shout out in panic. Chen Guang pulled back his hand and gestured for the 2 of them to come closer to him. "I think I've met my kind." "Your kind?" Jiang Yage asked in confusion. Chen Guang grunted. "Yes, my kind. I can't explain it in such a short time. But all you need to know is that there's something that shouldn't exist in this world." Now that things had come to this, Chen Guang didn't have the energy or time to ask why the power of the heavenly Holy Grail would continue to increase, and why the ordinary wolf packs on Earth would become like this, with their bodies filled with rich elemental powers. The heavenly Holy Grail wasn't in his hands, and Azure wasn't in the mood to take the initiative to talk to him. He had to rely on himself for everything. In any case, he had to slaughter this group of reckless beasts first. Actually, if everyone could calm down and sit down for a proper discussion, Chen Guang might be able to use his special skills as a language master to communicate with a wild animal with high intelligence like the Silver Wolf King. After all, he was also a master of shady transactions. There was nothing in this world that couldn't be shady transactions. If one shady transaction couldn't solve the problem, then he would do it a second time. It was a pity that the other party didn't seem to have any intention of communicating with them. Instead, for some reason, he seemed particularly irritable, determined to bite them to death. Strangely enough, unlike other ferocious beasts, the probability of wolves taking the initiative to attack humans was not high, even though they were terrifying. Because of their high intelligence, the wolves knew that humans were different from the other beasts in the mountains and were more dangerous. Although the wolves were ferocious, they were not willing to easily become enemies with humans. Otherwise, the things in the hands of humans would pose a great threat to them. But this time, they attacked the humans without any fear of death. Even though Chen Guang had used water droplets as darts to knock them to the ground over and over again, and even though Dan and Song and the rest had fired wildly, they still could not shake the frenzied wolf pack in the slightest. It seemed that not only did the elemental energy make them stronger, it also made them more bloodthirsty and relentless. However, there was also another possibility. The overly powerful Silver Wolf King had inflated its ego. It led the wolves to attack the humans, not because they were hungry, but because it wanted to test how strong its newly acquired power was. Roar! Just as Chen Guang was analyzing the situation in his mind, the Silver Wolf King in front of him had already let out a roar and was the first to charge forward. The Silver Wolf King looked huge, but its movements were extremely fast. It crossed a distance of more than 10 meters in the blink of an eye, and in the next moment, it was already in the air with its claws spread open, and it pounced towards Chen Guang from above. From the Silver Wolf King's brief movements, Chen Guang could sense a hint of the earth cutter that he had fought before. However, it did not have the earth element in its body, but an even sharper type of elemental energy, which was a little metallic. As the Silver Wolf King led the charge, the other wolves around it also charged forward in unison, as if they were going to launch their final attack. For a moment, the wolves surrounded Chen Guang and the others from all directions, with the Silver Wolf King as the leader, the 8 mutated giant wolves as support, and the remaining dozens of wolves as support. An unprecedented amount of elemental energy, something that had never appeared on Earth, charged towards Chen Guang in a frenzy. The Silver Wolf King was still flying in the air when it suddenly opened its mouth, and a silver ray of light shot out from its tongue, piercing through the air towards the space between Chen Guang's eyebrows. The other 8 mutated giant wolves also unleashed their own abilities. The shadow wolf that was as black as ink spat out a ball of black mist from its mouth. It seemed to be moving slowly, but it was actually flying towards Chen Guang at an extremely fast speed, devouring the light along the way. It was actually the rare power of darkness. The giant green wolf clawed at the ground with its claws, and 2 rays of green light, filled with the power of the wind element, flew out in a crisscross manner. The giant blue wolf's fur stood on end, and it did a somersault in the air, turning its back towards Chen Guang. The fur on its body instantly froze, and countless ice needles shot out from its back like lightning. It looked like a porcupine launching an attack, but its power was many times greater. The giant red wolf was of the fire element, and it opened its mouth to spit out a fireball. The fireball grew in the heavy rain, illuminating the surroundings as it swept towards Tang Wulin. The 8 mutated giant wolves each had their own unique characteristics, but none of them were to be underestimated. As for the other wolves, although they were not as strong as the Silver Wolf King and the mutated giant wolves, many of them also displayed special abilities brought about by the power of the elements. For example, their fangs grew longer, or their claws emitted sparks, or their bodies suddenly expanded, becoming exceptionally large. If not for the fact that they were in a life-and-death situation, the 2 girls, Jiang Yage and Shilu, would have been dazzled by the dazzling attacks in front of them. At this moment, the 2 girls did not know what they could do, nor did they know what kind of situation they were facing. If not for the fact that it was happening right in front of their eyes, the two of them would have thought that they were filming a Hollywood fantasy movie. As actors, the two of them had acted in all kinds of strange things in movies. If it were an ordinary person, they would have long since fainted. Even so, they could only hold their breaths and stare blankly at the broad back of the man in front of them, pinning all their hopes on Chen Guang. Faced with the oncoming attack of the wolf pack, Chen Guang, who was previously extremely fearful, felt much more relaxed. Fortunately, these wild beasts were only enjoying the leftovers brought about by the power of the Holy Grail. To an ordinary person, they might be so powerful that they were almost undefeatable, but in front of a high-level elemental creature like him, the Earth Popper, their abilities were not enough. You lowly beasts. You want to use me as a touchstone for your special abilities? I'm sorry, but you found the wrong target. All of you have to kneel and call me grandfather. Chen Guang laughed coldly, and suddenly spread his arms. The strength of the martial sage realm burst forth from his left hand, while the special ability of the Earth Popper spread out from his right. The two equally powerful forces instantly intertwined in the middle of his hands. And in the next instant, they turned into a pillar that replenished the invisible barrier in front of him. The silver light spat out by the Silver Wolf King was the first to collide with the barrier. With a crisp sound, the silver light only managed to break through the barrier for a short, while before it was completely destroyed by the special ability of the Earth Popper, which was many realms higher than it, and returned to its most basic elemental energy. The attacks of the other 8 mutated giant wolves seemed terrifying, but in reality, they were not much better. They were all blocked outside. Jiang Yage and Shi Lu were both inside the colorful circular barrier. Even though they knew that they were not out of danger yet, the two of them were still completely immersed in the incomparably dazzling brilliance. It was natural for girls to love beauty. At this moment, Shi Lu had escaped from death, and the tension in her heart had greatly eased. With Jiang Yage's consolation, she firmly believed in Chen Guang's strength. Jiang Yage was even more blind, believing that as long as he said it, he would definitely be able to do it. At this moment, the two of them were nervous but not nervous. Amidst their fear, there was also a sense of steadfastness and determination. They could not control their emotions at all, and subconsciously immersed themselves in the magnificent brilliance before them. However, the two of them were pulled back to reality in the blink of an eye. This was because the ordinary wolves had already pounced on the barrier. Their wide-open bloody mouths seemed to be within reach, and the saliva dripping from their sharp fangs looked disgusting and terrifying. The two girls subconsciously hugged each other tightly and screamed involuntarily. However, the wolf pack's attack was futile. Unlike the previous attacks that were only blocked and bounced off, the invisible barrier that was once again fused with an even more powerful inner force, an earth elemental energy, wrapped around these reckless wolves. It was as if they had flown into a quagmire in a swamp, and then ruthlessly tore them apart like a meat grinder. Boiling red blood splattered all over the sky. Bits of flesh and white bones mixed with broken fangs flew in all directions. This scene was bloody yet bewitchingly beautiful. Upon seeing this, the originally arrogant Silver Wolf King let out a blood-curdling cry. Its body abruptly stopped in midair, as if defying gravity. It twisted its body in a strange manner in midair, and turned around in an attempt to escape. Accompanying the Silver Wolf King's blood-curdling cry, which also sounded like an order to retreat, the remaining 70 to 80 wolves also turned around and ran, scattering in all directions. With the heavenly Holy Grail in his hand, as the world's most powerful martial artist, as well as the ultimate elemental form of the Earth Marmalade Exploder, Chen Guang, who could be mentioned in the same breath as a god emperor. How could he lose to these mutated beasts that had eaten his leftovers? Beasts were still beasts after all. If they really had the intelligence of humans, they would have known from the beginning that they were no match for Chen Guang. By the time they finally realized that they had found the wrong opponent, it was already too late. Chen Guang's eyes were bloodshot. Since he had run into these mutated beasts, he could not let even one of them escape. Otherwise, if ordinary people ran into them, even an armed army might not be able to deal with them. Trying to run, No way. Chen Guang stomped his right foot heavily on the ground. With him as the center, a loud rumbling sound came from the ground 100 meters away. In an instant, an earthen wall about 15 feet tall rose out of thin air. At first glance, these earthen walls did not look like anything special, but upon closer inspection, they looked like countless intertwining quicksand. Chapter 988. The wild wolves that were on the periphery were the first to collide with the wall. These beasts did not know how powerful the wall was and only tried to scratch with their claws. However, as soon as their claws reached in, they were instantly wrapped up by the quicksand on the surface of the wall, unable to escape. Chen Guang snorted coldly. He spread open the fingers of his right hand and clenched his fist. Sand-binding coffin. Following his shout, the wild wolves that were caught in the quicksand wall all screamed and exploded in the sand, as if they had been crushed by a giant's fist. You're running your mouth again. You think I haven't seen Naruto before? Jiang Yage, who had calmed down again, immediately exposed this guy who was too lazy to give a name to his ultimate move. Although she did not know how he did it, nor did she understand what kind of ability it was, Jiang Yage subconsciously understood that this was definitely not something that could be explained by a simple inner force martial artist. However, this was not important at all. He was Chen Guang anyway. Even if he could open his mouth and swallow the sun into his stomach, there was no need to make a fuss about it. The remaining wolves knew that they were powerful and immediately stopped in front of the quicksand wall. They did not dare to move an inch forward, but the wall was too high for them to jump over. The Silver Wolf King and the 8 mutated giant wolves also rushed to the front of the quicksand wall. These 9 giant wolves were quite capable. The Silver Wolf King's hind legs bounced off the ground and shot up into the sky like a cannonball. At a glance, it seemed like it could directly jump over. The Emerald Wind Wolf King, on the other hand, directly floated up into the air. The khaki-colored giant earth element wolf did not know what was good for it. It dived head first into the quicksand wall, as if it wanted to turn into soil and pass through the wall. Unfortunately, as soon as its elemental power came into contact with the power of Chen Guang's kind, which was countless times higher, it was instantly suppressed and died on the spot. On the other side, the Silver Wolf King rushed higher and higher. Just as it was about to escape, the quicksand wall suddenly expanded under Chen Guang's secret control. It shot up into the sky, and the top continued to gather above Chen Guang's head. In the blink of an eye, the quicksand wall had become a pot lid, covering the 3 people and the remaining 60 to 70 wolves. This move could also be called closing the door and beating the dog. Chen Guang turned around and shrugged at Jiang Yage and Shilu. Why don't you close your eyes later? The next scene is a little bloody and not suitable for children. After saying that, he turned around and walked forward, cracking his knuckles. Despairing, the Silver Wolf King turned around and pounced. This time, Chen Guang did not use his superpower. His martial sage realm genuine qi burst out, and he used the real martial sage unique skill, true martial divine skill. His body was indestructible. He stretched out his hands and grabbed the upper and lower jaws of the Silver Wolf King. His fingers locked onto its teeth and tore them apart. Die! The Silver Wolf King was torn in half. A merciless massacre had officially begun. From start to finish, it took less than a minute. When the wall of quicksand returned to the ground, all that was left was a ground covered in blood and broken wolf corpses. Chen Guang returned to the stunned Jiang Yage, and Shiluan shrugged. I'm sorry, I didn't want to make it so bloody. Actually, I used my other ability to maintain the wall of quicksand. I don't have much inner force left, so I could only rely on my physical body to solve the problem. I didn't scare you, did I? Jiang Yage and Shilu shook their heads in unison against their will. But soon, Jiang Yage vomited with an "oh," while Shilu burst into tears. She was scared out of her wits. Shilu cried for a few minutes until her tears were almost dry. Then, she looked around and began to vomit again. Jiang Yage didn't cry, but in a few minutes, she vomited all the stuff in her stomach, and her bile was almost gone. Chen Guang did not rush them. He stood behind them and patted them on the back. Then he sat down cross-legged on the ground. Anyway, the military police of Baishui County were approaching quickly, so he might as well wait for them here. Of course, it was not because he wanted to wait for someone, but because although it was easy for him to deal with the wolves, he had used up a lot of his inner force and superpower. Ever since he cultivated the true martial skill and became a martial sage, Chen Guang had not felt empty in his stomach for a long time. Now that he was feeling weak, he was not used to it. Thus he seized the time to meditate. On one hand, he was trying to recover his inner force as soon as possible. On the other hand, after the wolves died, the elemental power in their bodies was slowly released. Although Chen Guang could only absorb the earth elemental power, other than the Silver Wolf King and the 8 mutated giant wolves, the elemental power in the bodies of the other wolves was very heterogeneous. Among the various elemental powers that were released after their deaths, there was more or less some earth element. Even the relatively pure Silver Wolf King and the 8 mutated giant wolves had a lot of impurities in their bodies. Otherwise, their ranks would not be so far apart from Chen Guang. He was the original and only great earth exploder in the endless realm of the gods. Although the name wasn't very elegant, it was actually like the stone monkey that had existed since Pangu created the world, standing proudly above the East Sea, and was born from the 5-colored stone left behind by Nuwa when she patched up the heavens. The Great Earth Exploder was the highest rank of elemental life that had never appeared in the endless realm of the gods. The elemental power in its body was also 100% pure. However, those that were lower than it, such as the Great Earth Chaotic Being, had not reached absolute purity. Perhaps it was 99% and in 9s after it. However, no matter how many digits there were after the decimal point, it could only be infinitely close to absolute purity. It could not really cross this critical point. Just like in the real world, whether it was 1,000-foot gold, 10,000-foot gold or 24K gold, there was no absolute 100% pure gold. Even if there was an impurity of other atoms, it could not be called pure gold. Modern scientists believe that humans are unable to create absolutely pure substances because molecules and atoms can diffuse. However, this was not the case for Chen Guang. He was absolutely pure and did not contain any impurities. Great Earth Exploder. Now that the entire pack of mutated wolves had been annihilated here, the earth element in the vicinity was particularly rich. It was a rare opportunity to use his special ability. Chen Guang simply took this opportunity to use his special ability to absorb the earth element around him like a whale sucking in water. In short, when the 2 girls were almost done crying and vomiting, Chen Guang also entered a shallow state of meditation. Although the 2 girls were scared to death, they did not dare to rashly disturb him when they saw him meditating like an old monk. They did not know what was so special about people who practiced martial arts. Wasn't it shown on television that martial arts masters should not be touched when they meditated? They could easily go berserk, and they had to balance yin and yang in order to suppress it. Jiang Yage turned her head to look at Shi Lu, and thought to herself, I must not touch him. I must definitely not touch him. Otherwise, it would be too terrifying. Someone would definitely die. As for whether it would be 1 more or 1 less life, it was not certain. If his output was a little larger, maybe there would be 2 more lives? But I would definitely faint, and so would Shi Lu. When others came over and found this guy in the F*CK, it would really be unimaginable. Unconsciously, Jiang Yage pulled Shi Lu further and further away, at least maintaining a distance of 5 or 6 meters from Chen Guang. Sister Yarge, we are, Shi Lu said with a trembling voice. She was a little scared when she was far away from Chen Guang. Jiang Yage patted her on the shoulder. Don't worry. All martial arts masters are like him. When they are tired of killing, they have to quickly meditate and chant scriptures to avoid having inner demons in their hearts. Shi Lu suddenly understood. I see. It's so hard for him. Jiang Yage rolled her eyes. Hey, what hard work? He's just pretending to chant scriptures. Forget it, let's not disturb him. It's really a little cold. Shi Lu nodded. Leaving Chen Guang's side, he didn't use his internal energy to block the rain. The 2 of them had been drenched all the way until now, and their bodies were really cold. Achoo! Achoo! The two of them sneezed one after another. After a while, the rain in the sky suddenly stopped. The moonlight shone down and sparkled. If it weren't for the muddy ground, no one would have imagined that there would be a downpour in this forest tonight. However, Jiang Yage and Shi Lu didn't have a chance to warm up. The rain stopped, but the wind inexplicably became stronger again. At the same time, a strange wind blew from all directions and gathered in Chen Guang's direction. Jiang Yage and Xia Lu could see this strange phenomenon because they found that the leaves around them were all floating in the direction of Chen Guang at the same time. These leaves were wrapped in the wind and kept floating toward him. They gathered around him and spiraled up above his head, almost forming a tornado that swept up to the sky. What the hell is this? Jiang Yage was dumbfounded. Shi Lu's teeth were chattering from the wind. She had already suffered a great shock tonight, and she had to endure all the way here. Now, she had caught a cold, and the ground was covered in blood. Her willpower was still strong, and if it was someone else, they would have already given up. Jiang Yage reluctantly helped her up and sat on the ground with their backs against the tree. She couldn't care less about the muddy ground under them. Chen Guang also didn't expect that eating some soil would cause such a big commotion. Although it was a shallow meditation, it was only to guard against murderous aura and killing intent. As for the wind and rain, it wasn't within his scope of consideration. He didn't know that because of his crazy absorption of elemental energy, it caused a tornado to form around his body. This went on for more than half an hour, before he finally stood up in a refreshed state. His inner force had recovered by more than half, and the Earthburster's ability was a great supplement. It was even more nourishing than when he swallowed Ouyang Tianxing's ability. Anyway, Chen Guang didn't want to leave a mouthful of soup for others to drink. He could absorb the Earth Elemental ability, and it was rare for him to be able to set up a stance. He might as well absorb it all, until the concentration of the Earth Elemental energy could no longer support his absorption, and he could barely feel its existence. At this time, he still didn't know that he had actually absorbed all the Earth Elemental energy in the surrounding thousands of miles. Elemental energy was different from air. It could be said to be invisible, but it was also tangible and much lighter than air. The range of the elemental energy that Chen Guang absorbed was huge. The Earth Elemental energy came from all directions at an extremely fast speed, many times faster than the speed of sound. However, the wind it brought was not that fierce, and it was a bit like electrolytic ions flowing through a solution. He stretched lazily and shouted, "Awesome!" Then he began to look around for Jiang Yage and Shi Lu, shouting, "We can't wait for them. Let's go back." 3 minutes later. F***CK. Curry curry curry. He ran under a big tree and dug away the thick layer of leaves that had almost piled up into a grave. He looked at the two girls hiding behind the tree with blue lips, hugging each other for warmth, but failed miserably and fainted from the cold. Chen Guang's heart ached so much that he couldn't breathe. What suffering? Chapter 989. After a while, he transferred qi to the two of them, used his inner force to help them get rid of the frostbite in their bodies, and hurriedly used his earth ability to build a cave around the three of them to block the wind. Then, Chen Guang used the all-encompassing inner force of the true martial divine skill that could change attributes at will to form a flaming saber. He weakened the power and slashed at the extremely sturdy cave wall. "Eat the first form of my flaming saber. Eat the 77th form of my flaming saber." In short, the cave warmed up just like that. After about 10 minutes, Jiang Yage was the first to wake up. She opened her eyes in a daze. "Is this hell?" Nodding his head, Chen Guang responded, "That's right. This is the meat toilet hell. I'll have to trouble benefactor to raise your butt." "You're winning. It's not convenient for me right now." Jiang Yage calmed down the moment she heard Chen Guang's voice. She shook her head and woke up. Then, she gave Master Guang a rude awakening. Chen Guang didn't want to speak anymore. "It's not convenient for you. And you're telling me you want to train? Are you going to perform a red fountain for me?" Jiang Yage was bashful. I just came a day early. It was frozen out." As she spoke, she touched Shi Lu's forehead. "Oh my God. It's so hot." It's at least 50 to 60 degrees. She's burning up so badly. Shut up. If it's 50 to 60 degrees, it's almost done. Don't be so surprised. I just used the weakened version of the flaming saber to add some heat to the two of you. The heat hasn't dissipated yet. Jiang Yage nodded. Okay, but aren't you afraid of being sued for copyright infringement? Isn't this Jiumaji's Kung Fu? Can you think of a more reliable name? Why do you even read the demigods and semi-demons? Why do you see through my nonsense every time? What's the name of the flaming saber? Jiang Yage blinked. She realized that she was extremely curious about everything about Chen Guang. Even if it was just some random nonsense, it was still very attractive to her. He was like a black hole, sucking in all of her rationality. Too perfect, too handsome. How could there be such an impeccable man in this world? I'm so lucky to be born in this era, and to be able to meet him at the best age. He just did not know. If a martial arts master like him farted, would it smell good because the conception and governing vessels had been opened, and there were no impurities in his body? Blarg. Chen Guang recalled the awkwardness of learning this martial art in the realm of true martial. He shook his head and said, Well, don't ask these useless questions. Say it. Jiang Yage began to act coquettishly. The more he didn't want to talk about it, the more she wanted to know. Chen Guang blushed. Don't laugh at me. Okay, I swear I won't laugh. Chen Guang took a deep breath and said, This move is called the Super Force Crimson Flame Floating Saber, that can't lose to the Flaming Saber. Damn, the martial emperor who developed this martial art in the realm of true martial must be a retard. Ha. Puff. I won't laugh, I really won't laugh. Jiang Yage was stunned for a few seconds and began to beat her chest and stamped her feet. She really did it. She really endured it, but her chest was almost hammered flat. Chen Guang sighed. In fact, the retarded martial art he learned in the realm of true martial was far more than this. He also had 10 unique skills. Just by saying the names, he could make 1 Buddha born and 2 Buddhas go to heaven, okay? Forget it, it's not important. Well, if there's nothing else, let's go. I'll carry Shilu. Although she should be fine, it's better to go to the hospital. Just as he was about to leave, there was a loud noise outside. Chen Guang pricked up his ears and listened. He stopped Jiang Yage again and signaled for her not to act rashly. Indeed, people came, but it was not the armed police or the armed police. The faint human voice drifted in from outside. It was the voice of Fortune Monger. Like father, like son, Bao Song had become a malignant tumor, and his father, Fortune Monger, was to blame. This time, Bao Song even kidnapped Jiang Yage. But Fortune Monger still braced himself and brought people to deal with the aftermath. However, he was only here to collect his son's corpse. Boss, what situation is this? Why are there so many wolf corpses? Ma Song, why are you asking me? How would I know? My God, what the hell is going on? Why is there such a huge wolf pack? There are at least hundreds of corpses here, right? Boss, there are no bullet holes on these wolves' bodies. And there are no knife marks either. It's a bit like what? It's like they were torn apart by a terrifying force or crushed to death. The ones here are even worse. They've all been smashed into pieces, as if they were thrown into a meat grinder. That's not the most important thing. F***ck. These wolves are really big. Silver wolves. My God. Ma Song. Why are there silver wolves here? And they've even been torn into 2. This silver wolf is almost the size of a horse. As the local tyrant of Whitewater River, Fortune Sack had heard many stories about wolves from the older generation. Silver wolves were a mutated breed that only appeared once in 100 years. Once they matured, they would be extremely ferocious and powerful. Furthermore, they had astonishing intelligence and were extremely cunning. But what he saw now was the corpse of the Silver Wolf King, who had died a terrible death. Ma Song also leaned over and sucked in a breath of cold air. Fortune Monger stomped his feet anxiously. Quickly search the vicinity. There might have been a very terrifying battle between beasts here. I don't know what happened to Bao Song. Boss, there's a very strange mound over there. Why do you care about the mound? Find him for me. Goo. Didn't you say you're the most familiar with the situation in the mountains? Come tell me what's going on. Fortune Monger pulled a shifty-eyed skinny man in plain clothes in front of him. The one who could make them rush here more than an hour earlier was this veteran hunter surnamed Gu, who's Zi's uncle. At this moment, this hunter surnamed Gu was stunned. Boss Munger, I don't know either. If not for the fact that he could not afford to offend this group of people, Gu would have run away long ago. As a hunter, he knew very well how terrifying this scene was. The Silver Wolf King was a terrifying beast that could even contend with tigers, not to mention its huge size. Yet it had died such a terrible death. This could only mean that the monster that slaughtered the wolf pack was 10 times scarier than the wolf pack. This was completely beyond his understanding. He even felt that the monster might have become a spirit, just like what was written in the supernatural novels. Perhaps it had something to do with the smooth mound that should not have appeared in the forest. Gu was definitely a genius. He could even buy a lottery ticket because he had guessed it correctly. Boss, found it. Over here. At this moment, there was a scream from further away. Fortune Monger pulled Gu along and ran towards the source of the scream. A minute later, a heart-wrenching scream resounded through the forest. Son, you died so tragically. My son, this is a gunshot wound. Who is it? Who is it? I want to tear him to pieces. Bastard. Bastard. Fortune Monger roared crazily as he knelt in front of Wang Ensong's corpse, his hands desperately slapping the muddy water in front of him. He did not look like a billionaire boss at all. He had turned into an old man who had lost a loved one. However, he did not deserve any sympathy at all. The cause that he had sown had now borne this fruit. If Wang Ensong had not pushed Shi Lu into the wolf pack, if he had not fired at Shi Lu from behind, attempting to use Shi Lu's flesh and blood as bait, as long as he was willing to kneel down and beg for mercy, and Shi Lu had not suffered any physical harm, Chen Guang might not have taken his life. Perhaps he would have become a eunuch and suffer for the rest of his life. However, it was his repeated mistakes that pushed him into the abyss, causing Chen Guang to no longer see him as a human being and mercilessly erase his life. However, when a person makes a decision, their personality is the main factor. The nurturing of a person's personality and the environment provided by their parents are the main factors. Wang Ensong could be said to have died in the hands of Chen Guang, but it could also be said that he had died in the hands of Fortune Monger himself. There were many rich second-generation heirs in the world, and there were even people like Lin Jingwei, who were second-generation heirs. However, not all of them were so deceitful. Fortune Monger's cries were so loud that even Jiang Yage, who was far away, could hear them clearly. He's going to tear you into pieces. What should we do? He's crying so miserably. Serves him right. I'm not bragging, but I reckon that by the time the people sent by Grandpa find out, this father and son pair will have killed at least 2 digits of people. Do you believe me? Jiang Yage said casually. She was not afraid at all. The hardest part had passed. Jiang Yage really did not think that Fortune Monger and his group could pose any threat to her. Hey, why aren't you saying anything? Chen Guang finally moved. He got up and walked forward. I was just thinking about something. What is it? To kill or not to kill? Forget it. I have to remove the roots when cutting weeds. In any case, it's not a good thing. If he really uses a few billion to throw at me, it'll be quite annoying. Jiang Yage knew that Chen Guang was going to start a massacre again. Actually, she felt that this might not be a good idea. Chen Guang's hands were stained with too much blood today. However, she was already sick of the father and son pair of the Bao family. She also knew that if they really wanted to pay with their lives, the father and son pair of the Bao family should have died 10 or even 100 times. She had casually asked old Jiang on the phone before. The history of Fortune Monger's rise was indeed quite bloody. However, there were people who supported him in the past and helped him get away with it. He was also very influential in Baishui County, so it was difficult for the higher-ups to make up their minds to deal with him. Jiang Yage was actually quite annoyed by this. She also could not stand the routine of finding a balance in the political and business circles. Since there were laws they should be abided by, it was only right to pay with one's life. No matter how rich or how powerful the other party was, there should be a price for doing bad things. However, Huaxia was a complicated society. Many people who committed crimes did not receive the punishment they deserved. Jiang Yage could especially understand why Chen Guang lost his job as the director of the Guangding General Administration. With his temper, if he really continued to do this, he would be disgusted to death sooner or later. It was even possible that he had seen too many shady things and was angered. If that happened, his grandfather and the others would really have to stand against him. Suddenly, like a ghost, Chen Guang appeared in front of Fortune Monger, without warning, with his hands behind his back. Between them was Dan Song's corpse. I heard that you want to tear my body into pieces? Well, I'm here. Why don't you show me? Chen Guang looked down at Moneybags without any expression on his face. Ma Song, who was standing behind him, froze. He did not understand how this guy had appeared. A moment ago, there was no one where he was standing, and the next moment, he was talking with his hands behind his back. Although the back of his head was facing him, Ma Song felt that he was being stared at by the back of his head. If he moved even a little, he would die. Chen Guang, did you do it? Hatred and grief made Fortune Monger forget his fear of martial artists for a moment. He raised his head and stared angrily at Chen Guang, roaring. Chen Guang nodded. That's right, I did it. I also killed these wolves. And then, as he spoke, he paused and said helplessly, actually, I'm a very reasonable person most of the time. However, it seems that I can't reason with you this time. So, I hope that you will remember today's lesson when you cross the bridge of helplessness. If you have a next life, remember to be a good person in your next life and teach your son well. Chen Guang suddenly laughed. He rarely laughed like this. This was because he wanted to hide his inner thoughts. If he had a choice, he would not want to kill. However, there were always people who had to die in this world. Chapter 990. Following Chen Guang's smile, the already chilly late autumn forest suddenly became even colder. Even Jiang Yage, who was peeking in from afar, shuddered and scratched her head. That's weird, why is it so cold? Fortune Monger and the others beside Chen Guang could feel it even more clearly. Their teeth chattered as if cold water had been poured over their heads. Fortune Monger, who was furious just a moment ago, immediately sobered up. Fortune Monger thought of the thing that had once left him with an indelible nightmare. He thought of the table that Chen Guang had smashed into pieces that day, and the distance between the two of them. He suddenly woke up. Since his son and his accomplices had died under Chen Guang's hands, then Chen Guang most likely had a gun in his hands. Inner force martial artists were one of the most terrifying existences in the world. How terrifying would an inner force martial artist with a gun be? Fortune Monger didn't know, and he didn't want to experience it. But now this person was standing in front of him, about to take his life in the next moment. Chen Guang, listen to me. Fortune Monger couldn't care less about his son's corpse. He leaned back and sat on the ground. His legs slowly moved across the muddy ground. As he spoke, he tried to calm Chen Guang down, and at the same time, he wanted to quietly distance himself. As for avenging his son, he couldn't care less. Saving his own life was the most important thing. Chen Guang raised his hands and looked straight at Fortune Monger. He still had that strange smile on his face. He slowly raised his right hand and looked at the miserable Fortune Monger. But there was no change in his emotions. Since he had decided to make a move, it was like an arrow leaving the bow. There was no turning back. He didn't want his soft-heartedness to ruin things. He was deliberately trying to return to the state of mind of the true martial saint emperor. Although he wasn't bloodthirsty, he saw mortals as ants. As long as he stood on the side of justice, he could control the life and death of others. He didn't need to worry about anything. He just needed to kill to avenge himself. Do it! On the other side, Fortune Sack took advantage of the brief moment when Chen Guang had yet to make a move to quietly widen the distance between the two of them by 4 to 5 meters. He then abruptly roared at Ma Song, who was behind Chen Guang. At this time, although Ma Song was still scared to death, he was the captain of Moneybag's bodyguards and the publicly recognized #1 thug of the Tong Yuan group. Back when he was a soldier, he was also a good fighter in the army. After all, He had been on the battlefield, had some skills, and had seen the world. Ma Song regained his clarity. He gritted his teeth and roared. Kill! He used almost all the strength in his body to throw the big guy in front of him. He grabbed it tightly with both hands, aimed at Chen Guang's back, and pulled the trigger crazily. Although the others who were standing a little further away were slower than Ma Song, they still took out their weapons after Ma Song. For a moment, sparks flew in all directions, and dense gunshots resounded throughout the forest. Moneybag, who was a few meters away from Chen Guang, finally extricated himself from his fear. He cracked his mouth and laughed hysterically. So what if you're a martial arts master? I don't believe you won't die. Although the beautiful woman had raised her hand to kill people last time, it was because she had moved too quickly and did not give them time to react. After all, Chen Guang was still young. Although his strength was amazing, he lacked the experience of the dangerous Jiang Hu. He had been careless. This time he should be dead, right? Moneybag thought as he raised his head and looked in the direction of Chen Guang. The next moment he was stunned. Previously, when Dan and Song fought against Chen Guang, he used 3 pistols, and the bullets were fixed in the air by his internal energy. Now, Moneybag was carrying a big guy with a long pipe, but the result was not much better. Ma Song and the rest were still frantically firing at Chen Guang. However, a cloud of dust suddenly exploded around Chen Guang, before the bullets, that flickered with a metallic luster, fell to the ground one after another. After looking twice, Moneybag was sure that his eyes were not playing tricks on him. He did not know how he did it, but when every bullet was about to reach him, it was blocked by the mud that appeared without warning in its flight path. What kind of monstrous ability is this? Am I dreaming? Clicking sounds came from the submachine gun in Ma Song's hand. He had already emptied an entire magazine. But in front of him, Chen Guang still did not turn around. He was still standing there with his right hand raised. Not to mention blood and wounds, his clothes were not dirty. Ma Song was 100% sure that although he did not hit every time, at least 90% of his bullets should have landed on this guy's body. Not to mention killing him, he wouldn't even be able to make him blink or turn his head. Monster! This is a monster! He's not human. Devil! Moneybag, the most loyal bodyguards, continuously emptied their bullets, but it was all in vain. Their minds were blank, and everything that was happening in front of them was beyond their understanding. As someone who had seen the methods of an inner force martial artist, Moneybag was more shocked than the others. As a hero of the pugilistic world, Chen Guang's methods were many times stronger than that woman's. Just like how it was written in wuxia novels, the woman could only live in the worldview of the deer and the cauldron. However, Chen Guang was definitely a character from before demigods and semi-devils. He had almost jumped from Jin Yong's novel to Huang Yi's worldview. Why am I so unlucky? Isn't it good for me to be a local tyrant in Baishui? Why did I provoke such a monster? Why did I want to tear him to pieces? Just how big is my heart? That's not right. We've been minding our own business. They only came to Baishui County to film, and I only needed to cooperate with them. I could also ask them to help me advertise my new building. But why did things turn out like this? Unknowingly, Moneybag felt his body become very light, and he slowly floated into the air. Chen Guang was still standing in the same spot, his right hand still raised, far away from him. But Moneybag felt that someone was strangling his neck, and the strength was increasing. His breathing became more and more difficult. Not only him, but the accomplices he brought were also struggling with all their might. It was as if an invisible hand was strangling them, and they floated into the air bit by bit. Only Hunter Gu, who was kneeling on the ground with weak legs, looked on listlessly. He thought that he would be like the others. Moneybag's head drooped slightly, and when he saw Wan Insong's corpse on the ground, he finally came to his senses. Yes, it was because of this son of his that he had wanted to hit on Jiang Yage from the beginning, and that was why he had dragged him into yesterday's dinner. In the end, things had gone sour during the dinner, and he had embarrassed himself. Then, even though he had already realized that the situation was not good, he had warned him to behave, and had even placed him under house arrest. But today, he had been released by that prodigal woman, And now things had finally come to this. Perhaps I should have listened to County Head Who. If I had made up my mind to sacrifice myself earlier, if I hadn't said such reckless words when I found my stupid son's corpse, perhaps I could have really lived on. If my son is gone, I can have another one, and I still have an illegitimate son. But if I die as well, then all my troubles will be over. The restraint on his neck loosened a little, and Moneybag could finally speak. I regret it so much. He regretted that he had been so lenient toward Wan and Song, and even more regretted that he had not taken this matter seriously. At first, he had only treated it as a simple case of Wan and Song's willfulness. Later, when he realized that something was wrong, he had not really made up his mind to restrain his son. I know that you regret it. Chen Guang put his hands behind his back. If I hadn't provoked you this time, would you not have killed me? Chen Guang smiled. Not necessarily. If I had found out about what you had done through other channels, perhaps I would have been unhappy, and you would still have died. But if I didn't know anything, then forget it. Why do you like to meddle in other people's business? I'm happy to. Chen Guang shrugged nonchalantly, then he suddenly clenched his fist. Blood splattered everywhere, and the Bao father and son, as well as Tong Yuan's forces, who had been tyrannical in Baishui County for many years, were completely annihilated. His wealth of hundreds of millions did not allow him to live another second. Jiang Yage had also seen too much blood today, and her nerves had become thick. Seeing the situation, she jogged over. I thought you guys still wanted to talk. Rolling his eyes, Chen Guang replied, You can't give too many lines for the antagonist. Otherwise, what if someone explodes and I kill them? That's true. Jiang Yage held his hand. Then let's go back now. Wait for a while, someone will be coming soon. Ah, they still want to kill people? What are you thinking? This time it's our own people. While the two of them were talking, the lights on the other side of the mountain in the distance lit up. A helicopter rumbled as it flipped over, its bright spotlights sweeping around the forest. Very soon, it discovered the abnormality here. Then it turned around and sped up to fly over. Chen Guang and Jiang Yage went to the sand dune house to wait. Standing outside, it was chilly. Chen Guang was not afraid, but Jiang Yage might not be able to withstand it. The helicopter found an empty space nearby and landed. Special forces armed with live ammunition filed out, then jogged all the way over. When they arrived, even the battle-hardened elites of the army were stunned by the sight of the corpses on the ground. Whether it was the dead giant mutated wolf on the ground, or the mangled bodies of Fortune Sack and his men, or the 9 men with holes in their foreheads, they all gave the dense forest a strange and terrifying smell of blood after the rain. This scene was simply too terrifying, too absurd. We are here. When the soldiers got closer, Jiang Yage instinctively wanted to get up and greet them. However, Chen Guang stopped her. Don't be anxious. These people are still very nervous now. If you jump out rashly, what if you scare them and they shoot you? Before he could finish his sentence, the Special Forces soldiers who had already heard the commotion turned around nervously. They gestured to each other, and then disappeared into the forest. They formed a jungle battle formation, and approached quietly but quickly. Chen Guang pressed Jiang Yage into the sand dune and walked out himself. Okay, relax a little. I'm Chen Guang. I've saved the hostages. Just as he finished speaking, a few soldiers with cold expressions stood out from hiding, their guns aimed at him, as if they were facing a formidable enemy. They clearly did not let down their guard. Chapter 991. You're Chen Guang? Nonsense. Isn't Chen Guang a big bald head? Aren't Deng Xiaojing's crew over there? Who the hell are you? Raise your hands. Obviously, these soldiers didn't know that Chen Guang had come over. They were too nervous to recognize Chen Guang. Slap. The soldier who spoke was slapped on the back of his head. Then a wretched-looking, skinny, middle-aged man stepped out from the crowd and came forward with a straight face. Mr. Director. I was wondering why the scene was so bloody. I didn't expect you to be here. I understand now. All of you put down your guns. You're pointing your guns at the chief of the Guangding General Headquarters. Are you trying to rebel? When Chen Guang turned around, He saw a fellow with a sallow complexion that was brimming with vigor. He didn't expect to meet an acquaintance here. It was the leader of the Xinxing faction, Dai Quan. It seemed that after his resignation, the relationship between the Guangding General Headquarters and the higher-ups was getting closer and closer. Since he took the plane with these Special Forces soldiers, he should have been in the military base from the beginning. Chief, you've worked hard. Are you okay? Hey, look at my stupid mouth. You'll be fine even if the sky falls. Hey, I say, why are you guys still so nervous? Relax, all of you, relax for me. Our chief is here. Do you need to make such a fuss? Interrupting Dai Quan's words, Chen Guang continued. All right, stop trying to intimidate me. I'm no longer your chief. Don't bring your tricks to work. Jiang Yage, come out. Jiang Yage had wanted to come out long ago. She wanted to teach this group of Special Forces soldiers a lesson. But Chen Guang calmed her down. All right, control yourself. They're here to save you. And they mean well. When the Special Forces soldiers saw Jiang Yage, they completely relaxed and calmed down. Chen Guang thought about it and decided not to greet Dai Quan. Instead, he carried the unconscious Shi Lu onto the helicopter and asked Jiang Yage to follow the helicopter. I'm not leaving. All right, you've also caught a cold. Let's go to the hospital for a checkup. If necessary, get a transfusion to prevent any sequelae. Getting a cold during menstruation doesn't seem too good. What if it affects the filming? Jiang Yage was stunned. You're still filming? Chen Guang shrugged. Why not? Only Shi Lu was affected. Big Beard and the others didn't know what was going on here. The crew's daily expenses are more or less hundreds of thousands of yuan. We should save as much as we can. Jiang Yage thought about it and realized that it was reasonable. Of the entire crew, only Shi Lu was frightened, but she was not the main creator, so it did not affect the filming. Although something had happened tonight, the earth still had to keep turning, right? She was really insensitive and had a strong endurance. Today's incident did not leave any psychological trauma on her. Then I'll leave first. Yes. Hurry up and get Big Beard to arrange for people to wait in the county. Your manager, Zhou Yin, is in the county? Yes. That's good. Take care of Shi Lu too. Hey, you're attracted to someone. Knocking on Jiang Yage's head, Chen Guang replied, Move your ass. Someone else became a scapegoat for you. And that's why they're in this mess. I feel bad about it, alright? Jiang Yage was amused. She looked at him happily. You feel bad for someone else because of me? Chen Guang was indignant. Of course. This is basic human behavior, okay? The soldier turned around and urged. Director Chen, Miss Jiang, how much longer? After confirming Chen Guang's identity, the attitude of these soldiers towards Chen Guang took a 180-degree turn. They were now respectful. As for Chen Guang, the chief instructor of Shun's special training camp, when Chen Guang was still in his honeymoon period with the old patriarchs, whether it was learning about the political mission or passing it on by word of mouth, it was widely spread in the military. It was just that Chen Guang had a shiny bald head when he appeared in front of the camera for a long time. His bald head was so distinctive that many soldiers who did not pay attention to popular news didn't know that his hair had grown back. That was why they didn't recognize him just now. Watching Jiang Yage and Shi Lu board the military helicopter, Chen Guang pulled Dai Quan with a grim expression. Faction leader Dai, what do you think of these wolves? Dai Quan looked around. The other Special Forces soldiers who did not follow the military helicopter were holding cameras and flashlights, checking the dead bodies one by one. These people frowned from time to time, and then secretly looked at Chen Guang with slightly fearful eyes. Then, they quickly pretended to be nonchalant and continued to check the scene. These bastards. All right, keep it in. I'm asking you about the wolves. Director Chen, don't call me faction leader. I can't take it. Keep it in. Brother Chen, in my opinion, there must be something fishy about this. Dai Quan finally became honest. Although it was a little inappropriate to call Chen Guang Brother Chen at his age, in the underworld, the strongest had the final say. It was not a big deal even if he called Chen Guang Brother Chen. Can't you show some professionalism? Truth be told, Chen Guang knew everything about the mutated wolves, but he had a deeper meaning behind asking Dai Quan about it. He wanted to know if these giant mutated wolves were difficult to deal with in the eyes of an experienced veteran like Dai Quan. Chen Guang had a faint worry that irreversible changes had already happened. Since he had encountered a giant mutated wolf here today, maybe there were mutated bears, mutated tigers, or even mutated humans in other places. Animals could mutate, and of course humans could also be mutated. Chen Guang could not help but think of one thing. The thief who smashed Wu Tong's bones with a mobile phone, and then suddenly died while in custody. Of course, it would hurt when a mobile phone hit a person's body, but under the circumstances of such a close distance, it was still a bit too exaggerated to break the bones of a well-trained elite police officer, like Wu Tong on the spot. As for the person's sudden death, it was even more inexplicable. Unfortunately, Chen Guang did not pay attention to it at that time, and did not follow Wu Tong to check the body. Now that he thought about it, it could be said that it was extremely terrifying. It was very likely that the thief had mutated like the pack of wolves, allowing him to explode his potential in a short period of time, and use strength far beyond that of an ordinary person. However, his body's functions could not keep up with his mutation, and after overexerting his physical strength, his organs rapidly dried up, and he finally died in custody. Linking these two events together, if his guess was correct, then it could prove one thing. The concentration of the power of the Holy Grail on Earth was enough to cause other creatures to mutate without opening the world in the cup. Although Chen Guang could not be sure and had not come to a conclusion, he felt that he had to pay attention to it. It would be best if he was overthinking, but if it really happened, then he had to think about how to deal with the situation. He himself was invincible, and any mutated creature was nothing but dust in front of him. However, he was only one person after all, and did not have the ability or energy to shine like the sun. Of course, it was extremely difficult for ordinary people to deal with mutated creatures, and the risk was extremely high. If he had to rely on someone, Chen Guang felt that he could only rely on an inner force martial artist. Seeing Chen Guang's serious expression, Dai Quan calmed himself down and squatted next to the Silver Wolf King's corpse. He bent down and carefully examined it. This guy was unusually large, and his strength must be amazing, but he died a little too miserably. I was the one who tore it into two with my bare hands, and at that time, I used about 1/10 of my strength. Dai Quan's body trembled. 1/10. Chen Guang shrugged. All right, 1/10. Then this wolf is very powerful. Yes, this wolf can also spit out silver light from its mouth, which is no different from a hidden weapon. Its power is probably equivalent to the special sniper rifle bullets you have seen in individual military exercises. Brother Chen, according to what you said, with my ability in close combat, I can probably deal with 2 to 3 of these wolves, no more than that. Although the people of Xinqing sect are not good at fighting, I, Dai Quan, should be in the top 100 in the police force. I understand, Chen Guang replied. The two chatted casually, and not long after, the other 2 helicopters in Baishui County's armed police arrived one after another. The ground was covered in blood, and County Magistrate Hu and the other officials, who were wearing leather shoes, were vomiting nonstop. The weaker police officers were not much better. Looking at the miserable state of the Bao father and son, County Magistrate Hu, who had known them for many years, could not help but feel sad. Tragic, this is really tragic. The chubby county magistrate who looked at Chen Guang, who was inspecting the wolf corpses with Dai Quan, and his heart was chilled to the bone. Fortunately, this incident happened too quickly, and he did not have time to drag Fortune Monk into this mess. Yesterday, he had received a call from the higher-ups, and he had also talked to a few police chiefs in the county who might have dragged Bao and Song into this mess, especially the people from the Scenic Area Police Station. No one had made any unforgivable mistakes. The heavens were truly watching over them. Fortunately, the hostage was fine and was still alive and kicking. Although he did not know why there was another minor actor who seemed to be in a bad condition. As long as Jiang Yage was fine, everything was fine. It seemed that he did not have to run anymore. Mr. Chen, why don't you go back and rest first? We will cooperate with the military personnel to clean up the aftermath, and we will definitely give you a satisfactory explanation. Chen Guang turned to look at County Magistrate Hu, not interested in talking to him. The Bao father and son had been domineering in Baishui County for so many years, and as the local official, it was impossible for Fatty, Hu not to have some illicit relations with them. The incident happened in a hurry, and old Jiang only called 3 helicopters. However, the top military and political leaders of Kainan province must have already taken action secretly. Together with the investigation team that set off overnight the night before yesterday, they must have sent a large number of troops to the border by tomorrow morning at the latest. By that time, the official earthquake in Baishui County would almost begin. At that time, Fatty Hu would be the first to bear the brunt. The rest would be dealt with one by one, and no one would be able to escape. It's just a small problem. It's fine as long as she's fine. You guys have nothing to explain to me anyway, so you can continue with your work. Dai Quan, come with me over there. I have something to tell you. Chen Guang dismissed the chubby county magistrate Hu, then pulled Dai Quan aside and instructed him with a solemn expression. You must go back and explain everything clearly to the 2 deputy directors, including the methods of these strange wolves that I just told you. Remember them all. Okay. Don't let your guard down. This matter can be big or small. Understood. You have to help the 2 deputy directors. If the situation that I'm most worried about really happens, I'm afraid. Afraid of what? I'm afraid that no one in this world can stay out of trouble. Chapter 992. Chen Guang added another sentence in his heart. His sin was so great that there was no limit to it. Dai Quan sucked in a breath of cold air. It's that serious? Actually, in the records of our sect's inheritance, there have been many ferocious beasts that have appeared since ancient times. This is different. Dai Quan nodded. I understand. Then I'll leave first. Alright, take care. Don't worry about the matters here. I'm here on behalf of the Guangding Bureau. I'm the highest commander here, so I can handle it. That's good. Chen Guang quickly disappeared into the dense forest. He planned to go to the tent camp to get the cup, then follow them to the hospital in Baishui County. He sped all the way, his speed not much slower than a helicopter flying in the sky. His expression was somewhat heavy, although he had killed countless people tonight, and the result could be considered okay. Shi Lu was safe and sound, the father and son of the Bao family were completely dead, and the entire crew was in a false alarm. No one was hurt, and perhaps the green mountains and clear waters of Baishui County could be restored. He could not feel happy. He could not help but imagine an overwhelming number of mutated monsters, mutated tigers, lions, wolves, black bears, and even all kinds of domesticated animals. There might even be insects like mosquitoes, flies, fleas, and crickets attacking humans in a frenzy. Or it could be like the thief. Some ordinary people with poor self-control suddenly obtained a power beyond their understanding and could not extricate themselves from it. They relied on their superior abilities to do evil, lawless, and disrupted the social order. No matter which of the 2 situations happened, it could be said to be a catastrophic result that affected the entire human race. This would cause chaos in the entire social order, and who knew how much blood would be shed and how many people would die before order could be restored. That scene was simply like a Hollywood doomsday movie. Thinking about this, how could Chen Guang feel relaxed in his heart? I'm still a good person after all. Who would have thought that the power of the Holy Grail leaking out from a broken cup could not only look cool, but also cause other creatures to mutate? What can I do? I'm also in despair. The cup is just there, and I can't stop the power of the Holy Grail from increasing in the outside world. Forget it. Even if I have to risk being beaten to death by Liuli, I have to go back and ask her for a solution. This can't go on. I have to do something. Chen Guang thought of utopia during the second punishment world. At that time, the world in the cup had completely merged with the real world. Under the incomparably abundant earth elemental energy, everyone in utopia had mutated. If the concentration of the power of the Holy Grail continued to increase, there was no guarantee that such a situation wouldn't occur in the future. My heart is so tired and aching. I'm just a cute little handsome guy. I just want to happily learn skills and act cool. Then I'll build a statue and gain faith. Then, I'll pass through world and cup one after another while lying down. If he could survive until he completed 3,000 missions without dying of old age, he might be able to smoothly become a god and save Azure, the unlucky god emperor, from the cup. When he became a god, he would be able to ascend to the heavens. He would be able to enlighten all the girls that he liked, had a good relationship with, or were beautiful and cute, so that everyone could enjoy happiness with him. If his luck was better in the future, he might even be able to go to the endless divine realm and be patted on the shoulder by the great god of chaos. Young man, thank you for saving my daughter. I can satisfy all your wishes. Then, he would be able to happily lie down in the god realm as a god emperor. He would have billions of cute girls, and he would be able to make friends with a few goddesses all day long, and so on. I don't want much, don't mess with me like this. I really don't want to drag all of humanity down with me. I also don't want to create a scene as big as the end of the world. This pot is too big, too heavy. The old man can't bear it. With this thought in mind, Chen Guang first contacted the bearded man and confirmed that they had already arrived at the hotel in the scenic area. He also helped them pack up their belongings in the tent. Then, he rushed back to the hotel at a speed that was even faster than when he was rescuing Lioli. Without another word, he grabbed his bag and prepared to hide in the toilet to have a calm conversation with Lioli. Sigh. Chen Guang, wait a minute. Seeing that Chen Guang was about to close the toilet door, Big Beard hurriedly stopped him from outside. What? I plan to bring some people to the county to visit Shilu. What about you? Are they all right? Chen Guang thought for a moment. Jiang Yage is fine, but Shilu might have caught a cold. Wait for me for a minute. Find a good car. I'll drive you there after I come out of the toilet. He had thought about it. It was better not to tell anyone about his massacre today. When Shilu woke up, Jiang Yage would also tell her about it. Although the people he killed were people who deserved to be killed, this kind of thing was still a little scary in the eyes of ordinary people. It was fine as long as it was over. There was no need to make a big deal out of it. Otherwise, if the filming couldn't continue, the past 2 months of effort would have been wasted. Big Beard nodded. Okay. By the way, you're not hurt, are you? Are you kidding me? It's not that I'm bragging to you. But even if your friend Shi Changhe used the purple and green dual swords in Heroes of Shushan a few years ago to stab me in the armpit, I would still be able to clamp them. I'm not talking to you anymore, I'm in a hurry. When Chen Guang finished speaking, he slammed the toilet door shut. Big Beard raised his hand to say something, but he was a step too slow. He scratched his head and said, "The cup of water. You want me to hold it for you? That's not very nice." 30 seconds later, Chen Guang opened the door. Big Beard jumped back. You. Who are you? It's me. Cut the crap. Let's go. Let's go to the county. Big Beard's eyes widened. He pointed at Chen Guang's head, which was obviously twice as big. But your head. It's okay. Don't mind the details. Chen Guang didn't want to pay attention to him. He hid his face and walked out. His fingers accidentally touched the corner of his mouth, and he grimaced in pain. Big Beardy looked at his back, and his mind was filled with O'Neill's big question mark. He muttered to himself, "What the hell? It's only been a few seconds, and there's no sound at all. How did he get hurt like this? Also, what happened to the armpit catching the purple and green dual swords? Did you use your face to catch Sun Wukong's Jingu Bang?" Chen Guang, who was walking in front, recalled the encounter just now. He was really angry. Damn, Lu Li's hand is really ruthless. He felt that if it wasn't for the super active Mother Earth explosive ability in the world in the cup, he wouldn't have been beaten half to death. Wait, this doesn't seem to be good news. The stronger my recovery ability, the more difficult it is for me to die. Isn't it easier for her to beat me up? Am I not the highest level human sandbag in the world? What the F***ck? No wonder she was so ruthless just now. Wasn't it because she knew she couldn't beat me to death? Forget it. Just let me die. Chen Guang subconsciously wanted to cover his forehead to express his condolences. His hand was about to touch it when he remembered there was a bag on his head. He was angry, but there was nothing he could do. Today's beating was in vain. Let's go back to a minute ago, from the moment Chen Guang entered the world in the cup. You're finally here. I thought you could hide outside for the rest of your life. The sound of bones cracking could be heard. Sister Luli, listen to my explanation. Bang! If you hit me again, I'll fight back. Bang bang. I really fought back. Bang bang bang. I thought we were friends. We'll be friends when I calm down. Deercry grew a super long leaf and fanned Luli. That's right. Sister Luli, you're tired, right? Come and cool down. Chen Guang didn't know how much time had passed outside, but he felt that he had at least endured a century in the world in the cup. Actually, when he first came in and saw Luli, who had once again turned into an African miss, he knew that he wouldn't have it easy this time. In short, no matter how difficult it was, he had finally endured it. The most infuriating thing was that he couldn't get the power of the Holy Grail from the outside world. At that time, he communicated with Luli, who had finally calmed down. Sister Luli, anyway, you're not angry anymore. Can we talk about some serious matters? The situation is really urgent. Go ahead. You saw the power of the Holy Grail from the outside world, right? I know. I also met a mutated creature with elemental abilities today. I know too. Then why is this happening? You triggered the realm of punishment twice, and the world in the cup fused with the real world twice. Although the fusion was dissolved afterwards, there was a connection between the two worlds, so the power of the Holy Grail kept leaking out. Two worlds? What the hell? I forgot to tell you. When you triggered the realm of punishment, it was a special world in the Holy Grail called the real world that was created for you after it completely fused with your world. The level of this real world is the same as the realm of life. There are a total of 9 special worlds that are on the same level as the realm of life and the real world. Damn, there's such bad luck. Why didn't you say so earlier? You wouldn't understand even if I told you. Forget it. Then why would the power of the Holy Grail leak? Oh no, leak. I don't know either. If I could figure out the secret of this broken cup, would I still be locked up here? That's true. Is there any way to remedy this? There isn't. Stop messing around. You're a God Emperor. I'm just a God Emperor locked up in the Holy Grail. Thank you. Then I can only watch helplessly? Congratulations, you got it right, but there's no reward. Then if the power of the Holy Grail continues to increase in the outside world, when will a large number of mutated creatures appear? I don't know. Then what else do you know? Tell me what I should do now. Lioli smiled calmly. I'll leave you with a sentence. Everything will work out when it comes to it. You've learned to answer first. Let me add another sentence for you. Everything will work out when it comes to it. In any case, Chen Guang suffered for nothing and came out with a bitter smile. To have met such an unreliable God Emperor, yet he hadn't been killed by her yet. His zodiac sign must be that of a cockroach. Squinting his swollen eyes while driving at lightning speed, Chen Guang looked at the distant skyline and thought to himself, forget it. Since things have come to this, there's no point in begging for help. I can only do as Lioli said and take things one step at a time. If it's a blessing, it's not a curse. If it's a curse, it can't be avoided. Since I can't resist it, I might as well close my eyes and enjoy the torture of life. If the sky is really going to fall, since it's all my fault, I'll just brace myself and bear it. Otherwise, what else can I do? Big Beard Deng, who was sitting in the front passenger seat, turned to look at Chen Guang, then tilted his head back. Damn, this swelling is going down too fast. Are you a 1,000-year-old Yunnan white herb that has gained sentience? When the car arrived at the county hospital and got off, Big Beard looked at Chen Guang again, only to find that his son's swollen head had completely recovered. Chen Guang, you, uncle, don't look at me like that. I know I'm very handsome now. Chapter 993. Big Beard was full of doubts. He didn't know if he had lost his memory, or if he was seeing things. Yang Shi and Old Ma, the field manager, were sitting in the back row. When they got on the car, Chen Guang was already sitting in the driver's seat. The two of them didn't look at Chen Guang up close like Big Beard did, so they didn't know what was going on. Instead, they felt that Big Beard was a little embarrassed. When they arrived at the ward, Jiang Yage was already asleep on the accompanying bed, while Shilu was also sleeping with a glucose drip. The four of them didn't disturb their rest, but pulled the attending doctor on duty to inquire about them. Jiang Yage's physique was as tough as her nerves. She fainted from the cold during her menstrual period, and after she recovered, there was no abnormality. It seemed that the dance and fitness she had done in order to maintain her figure had not been in vain. Shilu, on the other hand, was a little weak after being shocked and suffering from a cold. She needed to rest for 2 days. She woke up once before. Her body is fine, but she seems to have suffered a lot of stimulation. Her mental state is a little unstable. The doctor also knew Deng Xiaojiang. Director Deng is really a responsible director. It's already early in the morning, but he still personally came to care about the patient's condition. Big Beard blushed from the praise. He thought to himself, how could I not come? One was Jiang Yage, and the other was his old friend's niece. No matter who it was, they were not ordinary artists. He chuckled and nodded repeatedly. It's good that you're fine, that's good. The doctor continued. I really didn't expect a big star like Jiang Yage to be willing to accompany others in the hospital. No wonder my child is so infatuated with her. I used to think that celebrity artists were very arrogant. What a considerate and gentle girl. You flatter me. Chen Guang and the others chatted with the doctor for a while, and then walked out of the door. At this time, Zhou Yin was helping Jiang Yage out of the ward. She scolded. My lady, how could you sleep in the hospital? If someone finds out, you'll be surrounded by the whole hospital tomorrow morning. The doctor beside Chen Guang and the others also scratched his head and said, actually, I tried to persuade Miss Jiang to find another place to rest, but she said that you asked her to take good care of the patient, so she refused to leave. Jiang Yage looks up at Chen Guang in a daze. She feels refreshed. Chen Guang, you're here. Lower your voice. This is a hospital. Chen Guang quickly gestured to her. The group of people went to the big hotel where they stayed before coming here. Jiang Yage was so sleepy that she could not take it anymore, so she went back to her room to rest. Chen Guang, Zhou Yin, Big Beard Deng, Zhou Ya, Ren Chong, Zhao Yueling, and the other main cast members who arrived later, sat together for a simple meeting. Big Beard synthesizes Zhou Yin's opinion. In fact, he mainly wanted to find out Jiang Yage's attitude. After confirming that there were no problems, he was relieved. After a discussion, they decided to let the entire production crew rest at the hotel in the scenic area for a day. No one would go out for the time being. They would observe the situation and take it as a rest. They would decide if the production crew could return to work the day after tomorrow. Shilu might not be able to recover, but she was only a stunt double after all. Her absence would not affect the overall situation. All right, this incident is over without any mishaps. If there's nothing else from the day after tomorrow, let's finish all the scenes in one go. Big Beard forcefully raised his spirits and encouraged the others. The other main cast members were also energized. Chen Guang did not express any opinions throughout. Looking at Big Beard and the others who were in high spirits, he could not help but envy them. They did not know how many people had died in the mountains. The situation this time was special. Perhaps the entire Baishui County military and police who had been at the scene would be ordered to keep their mouths shut. The official explanation given to Big Beard was also very interesting. The hostage-taker, Bao Song, found his conscience under persuasion and took the initiative to return the hostages intact. Tong Yuan Corporation's chairman, Bao Fa Kai, also took the initiative to explain the problem. Currently, they had entered the stage of investigating other cases. The hostage kidnapping incident was considered to have come to an end. The official explanation was very reasonable. Big Beard Deng could only believe it even if he did not want to. Naturally, this was what he told the others as well. As for the only 3 people in the production crew who knew about the incident, Chen Guang, Jiang Yage, and Shilu, they would not say anything. Therefore, it was precisely because they did not know anything that they were fearless. Chen Guang envied their fearlessness because they were ignorant. Of course, continuing to film was also his own idea, so he did not expose them. As the saying went, when the entire Baishui officialdom was uprooted the day after tomorrow. He would not have to worry about the Bao father and son having any loyal underlings outside. If one doesn't look out for oneself, heaven and earth will destroy them. To avenge the old master who had already met the king of hell, and the target of revenge was this country. This was simply a multiple-choice question. If they could not uproot the entire Baishui corruption, even with old Master Jiang behind the scenes, then all Chen Guang could say was, "I look down on you people in power too much." He did not have the time to worry about others. In fact, he did not have the ability to pray for the world. Although Liuli's words were useless, they were not unreasonable. Now that things had come to this, he had no other choice but to resign himself to fate. Instead of worrying about a disaster that had yet to happen but could not be stopped, he might as well eat and sleep as he should. When the world really fell, he would be able to find the problem and think of a way to solve it. Although his iron fist was invincible, he did not know where the enemy was at all. It was not like he could rush to the roof and roar at the sky, then punch through the air and kill all the potential mutant creatures in the world, right? Therefore, what was done, and life still had to go on. The show still had to be filmed, and the money still had to be earned. The more disaster was imminent, the more he could not be in a mess. He should cherish the present and do what was in front of him. He should build a few more statues as soon as possible and think of ways to accumulate more faith points. Of course, it was not that Chen Guang did not plan to do anything. He had thought of buying more houses in the villa area near the school. It did not matter if he was bluffing or forcing them. In short, he had to think of a way to bring his family to Wujing. If something really happened, he had to save his own people first. Also, he had to warn those who were on good terms with him one by one. If he could get all of them to come to his side, he should not let them go. Of course, he could not tell them in detail. Even if he did, others might not believe him. It was better to scare them. However, things like mutant creatures were hard to guard against. For example, if Lu Fei listened to his suggestion and arranged 100 bodyguards at home, but once the mutation started, dozens of crazy mutants would jump out of the bodyguards. Wouldn't that be harming her instead? Other than taking one step at a time, what else could he do? With these chaotic thoughts in his mind, Chen Guang couldn't sleep tonight. He breathed in the air in the room, but his mind could not get rid of the feeling that what he breathed in was the power of the Holy Grail. Other than oxygen and carbon dioxide, there was also elemental power that was exchanging with his blood. He thought of a song by Wang Liham, "Change the World." If he was not tone deaf, he would really want to close the door and sing a song. For hours later, the sky outside was just beginning to brighten, and the rumbling sound of cars could be heard from the street outside. Chen Guang got up and stood in front of the window to look. A long line of cars was driving past on the street below. Old Master Zhang's methods came faster than he had imagined, and it was indeed like a thunderbolt. This day was destined to be an extraordinary day for the entire Baishui County. Many people were still asleep when they were suddenly shackled by the military and police who barged in and took them to the cars. Among these people were the fat old Huold Shun from the Scenic Area Police Station, Song Liangji from the county branch, and many others from different departments. There were also several other senior executives of the Tongyuan Group and their relatives. Even some people who had more or less done business with the Tongyuan Group over the years were not spared. Not only that, even some of the people in the city who had deep collusion with the Baishui gang were detained at almost the same time. Some of them already had more solid evidence, and some were still in the process of collecting evidence. But since they had decided to make a move, of course they would rather arrest the wrong person than let them go. They would first arrest and interrogate them, and at the same time collect evidence. If they were proven innocent in the end, they would be released and restored to their positions. If they were found to be dirty, then sorry, their political career would be over, and based on the facts of their crimes, depending on the seriousness of the circumstances, they would have to spend how long in prison. In short, once there was a problem, they would be dealt with severely and would not be lenient. Many people had been unlucky because of this matter. Such a large-scale arrest had been rare in recent years. If they had to blame someone, they could only blame the people in Baishui County. They felt that the sky was high and the emperor was far away. They had lost themselves in money and power, and were so bold that it was frightening. Of course, they were also unlucky enough. If they hadn't run into the hands of Chen Guang and Jiang Yage, they wouldn't have been wiped out. It could only be said that Heaven's Net had a long way to go. They had been doing evil for decades, and finally retribution had come. Some things were like this. Before the lid was lifted, no one knew how smelly it was underneath. But once the table is flipped, then every sin you have committed in the past will be slowly investigated by others, and turned into a sharp blade of punishment that will slice off your flesh piece by piece. People who had done all kinds of evil always had fear in their hearts. If they were lucky, they might be able to live a peaceful life. After death, everything would be for naught, and it wouldn't matter even if their graves were dug up. The unlucky ones were probably the same as the Bao father and son, and the people in Baishui County. What awaited them was a thunderous method, and an unpredictable heavenly might that descended from the sky. They would not reason with you, and would punish you whenever they wanted. Even the entire Kainan province was silent out of fear. At this time, whoever dared to stand up and plead for the people in Baishui at this juncture would be courting death. At 8:30 in the morning, Central TV Department 1's Morning News was the first to broadcast the Baishui case, officially setting the case in stone. In the evening, the news broadcast listed a long and shocking list, and more detailed information was directly published on the websites of several major official mouthpieces in the country. Chapter 994. Big Beard Deng, who was reviewing the script with a few of the main cast members, and browsing the web on his tablet from time to time, felt his eyelids twitching. Terrible, it's really terrible. It's really a one-pot kill. As he spoke, he secretly looked at Jiang Yage, whose face was blushing as she scribbled on the script. She was not listening to him at all. Big Beard thought of the countless military and police officers that had been scurrying around the entire Baishui County today, and he was also a little frightened. The power of heaven was vast and mighty, and the mortals suffered. This whole incident was really too thorough. There were about 50 to 60 people listed on the list, but in fact, there were at least 15 cars that had been captured outside the hotel and taken away. There were at least 10 people in each car. Chen Guang stretched and said indifferently, "This is karma. If people don't do bad things, they won't suffer the wrath of the heavens. Don't you think so, uncle?" Big Beard Deng pursed his lips and finally couldn't help saying, "That's the logic." He didn't continue. There were thousands of evil people in the world, but not everyone would provoke Jiang Yage, and not everyone would be unlucky. However, he knew that although he had a high status in the entertainment industry, he was still a relatively high-level actor. This kind of inside and outside of the imperial city was not something he should care about, let alone comment on. He gathered his thoughts again, and tilted his head to look at Jiang Yage. He looked up to see what she was scribbling on the script, and then he was shocked. "My missy, don't add any more sex scenes. You wrote so much, I don't dare to do it. Don't get me into trouble." Jiang Yage's face turned even redder, and she put the script in her arms. "I just wrote it for fun. I don't need you to peek at it." Big Beard felt a little stifled. The female lead changed the script, and he as the director didn't let her see it. Why was he so bitter? Chen Guang snatched the script from Jiang Yage's arms and looked at it. Then his eyes widened. "Oh my God, your scale is too big. I don't even dare to read it out loud. I'm afraid that the ninth heaven Xian thunder will descend from the sky and strike us into ashes. It's not as incredible as you make it sound." Jiang Yage refused to comply. Chen Guang said mysteriously, "You still don't believe in the matters of immortals? If you don't believe in God and Buddha, you will eventually suffer a great loss." Jiang Yage stared blankly at Chen Guang's face for a long time before saying, "I believe you." Chen Guang raised his hand and pointed to the sky. "That's right. These things happen when you believe in them. Although a gentleman doesn't talk about strange powers and gods, there are gods 3 feet above us." Jiang Yage stepped on his foot. "Speak properly. You've become so strange today. Chen Guang leaned back. That's because I have something on my mind. If there weren't outsiders around, Jiang Yage really wanted to pinch his hand and comfort him, not to care about what happened yesterday. The next morning, the crew set off from the hotel again to shoot the remaining 2 scenes at the Great Waterfall. When they got out of the car, everyone felt that the air had become especially fresh. Shilu didn't follow them. Instead, she rested in the hotel. She was a little unwilling to give up and tried to get into shape. However, the performance that she put on by forcing herself to put on couldn't be appreciated by others. In the end, she could only give up. Before they knew it, more than a month had passed in the blink of an eye. The entire crew traveled all over the country, flying up and down to 7 or 8 places in the country. They even made a trip to Europe. When Big Beard Ding finally announced that the exterior scenes were done, everyone let out a long sigh of relief. They were finally free. During this period of time, Chen Guang followed the crew up and down, but he didn't stay idle. He really took out 50 million yuan from the Tianguang Group's cash and bought 7 villas in one go in the newly developed villa district near the school. While he was handling the money, he thought of the 170 million yuan that he had lost. He thought that Lu Li had calmed down, so he hurriedly entered the cup world, intending to ask her. However, before he could say anything, he was beaten up again. This time, he tried to resist, but Lu Ming used leaves to tie him up like a dumpling and hung him in the air. He didn't get to ask anything, and he was beaten up for nothing, which made him extremely angry. Chen Guang still didn't know that after he left the cup world, Lu Li and Lu Ming also heaved a long sigh of relief. Lu Li patted her chest. We finally got away with it. I was so nervous. Lu Ming also shook his fruit. Yeah, it was really dangerous. If he found out that the money was wasted, then Sister Lu Li, it would be really embarrassing for you. If Chen Guang knew that the 2 of them had actually calmed down a long time ago, and were only afraid that he would ask about the money, he would probably vomit 3 liters of blood. However, his plan to get everyone over did not succeed in the end, and it had completely failed. He had been hit in the head by his father first. Chen Guoli's reason was simple and sufficient. He and Feng Rong's friends were all in Lilai County. It was difficult to find people to play mahjong in Wujing. Now that the dust pollution in the country was serious, the PM2.5 near Wujing often went up to 400. Although your mother is recovering very well now, she is still a person who has had a kidney transplant. If she breathes in too much dust, it will be too much pressure on the immune system. If the illness recurs, it will be terrible. Chen Guang said that I will put 2 air purifiers in a room. And Chen Guoli said that you want me and your mother to go to jail? Won't go out for the rest of my life. Well, in short, this matter was over. Even his parents couldn't pull him, let alone other relatives and friends. However, Chen Guang couldn't tell them what he was worried about. What could he say? The end of the world is coming. I met an elemental wolf that can spit fireballs and shoot ice needles. The people in this world are starting to mutate. Maybe the mosquitoes in the house will mutate. What he said was the truth, but Chen Guang felt that he might be ruthlessly sent to a mental hospital by his father. So in the end, Chen Guang's idea was completely ruined. Even his parents were like this, let alone other people. Fortunately, except for Zhuo Jingxi and Tang Ying, who were now in the United States, most of the people who were close to Chen Guang were gathered near Wujing. So the situation was not as bad as it seemed. As long as there was a car around, if something really happened, he would be able to rush over immediately. But if a stray dog or cat suddenly changed and was slashed by the neck, it would be futile even if Chen Guang brought everyone to the 5 capitals. After all, it was impossible for Chen Guang to watch over them 24/7. Just like Chen Guoli, although he didn't know what happened, he could hear Chen Guang's worry. However, he didn't take it seriously and comforted him. Don't scare yourself all day long. Even if you are really unlucky, don't some people choke to death when drinking water? As a person, you have to believe in fate. Chen Guang could only pinch his nose and accept it. In the past few days, although he relied on the acting skills of the world-class best actor to smoothly survive, he didn't have an easy time. During this time, The first thing he did after opening his eyes was to run to the window and look outside. Then he took out his phone and quickly read the news on the internet. Then he would run to find someone to chat with. In particular, he couldn't let go of any pets he saw in front of him. He talked about life with the hotel's gatekeeper, talked about ideals with the husky, who went out early in the morning and was left by its owner, or compared reactions with the British Shorthair, who passed by with a beautiful girl who lived in the same hotel. He was about to tire himself out. If it weren't for the fact that he had experienced many storms and had a strong psychological endurance, he felt that he would have almost had a nervous breakdown. The purpose of doing these things was also very simple. He was afraid that when he woke up, the world would no longer be the same as it was before. Every time he got a definite answer, he felt as if he had survived a disaster and had another day of peace. In the eyes of those who didn't know, the sun would rise as usual every day. But in his eyes, maybe the sun would disappear one day, and the moon would become two. Who knew? Unfortunately, he couldn't tell anyone about this. He could only bear the pressure by himself. This situation exhausted a great deal of his energy, but it wasn't as if Chen Guang didn't accomplish anything in the past month. On Tianguang Media's side, hi, my God. This new variety show had already started recording smoothly. Chu Zijin led the team and fumbled around. Fortunately, with the help of the mature team sent by Xiaotsong, they smoothly recorded the first 4 episodes. The online copyright was directly given to Xiaotsong's Bamboo platform. Seeing that he had given people away and supported the 30 million for publicity, they didn't take a single cent from the licensing fee. As for the licensing of the television station, after many investigations, they finally decided on Jiangnan Province's Department 1, which was relatively strong in variety shows among the provincial satellite TV stations in the country. It was also known as Jiangnan Satellite TV, which was jokingly called Chili TV. The broadcast time had also been set. It was set for the middle of next month. It would be broadcast once a week. It was prepared to take over the primetime slot on Friday night. However, the contract signed between the company and the television station was more complicated. It wasn't just a simple licensing broadcast. The relationship between the production company and the television station complemented each other. If the same program was broadcast on Chili TV, Mango TV, or Tomato TV, it would receive much more attention than on a weak provincial TV station like Dachuan Satellite TV. The amount of money paid by the title sponsor and the special advertising sponsor was also very different. If a program with a rating of more than 2% was broadcast on Chili TV, the title sponsorship fee would go up to 100 million. If it was broadcast on Dachuan Satellite TV, they would be stupid to give it 50 million. In addition, the television station said that they would pay the licensing fee to Tianguang Media. However, they couldn't ask the television station to give you a primetime slot and make you pay for it, right? A primetime slot was an investment worth tens of millions. Therefore, the television station definitely had to take a share of the advertising sponsorship. As the program producer, most of the money that Tianguang Media could earn came from the advertising sponsorship. The other half came from other aspects of copyright expansion, such as the licensing fee for on-demand broadcasting on video websites, and so on. If they had artists under them, of course, they could also send them to their own program to familiarize themselves and make their own artists popular. That was also a cash cow and could be considered a profit. Also, if this program achieved unprecedented success in the country, or if foreign companies recognized this model, the future copyright export would be another story. Chapter 995. After finalizing the television station, schedule and sponsors, according to the contract signed by Chu Zijin and Chili Pepper TV, the basic title sponsorship fee was 100 million, and the 3 special sponsorship fees totaled 60 million, of which 60 million would be given to Chili Pepper TV. Chili Pepper TV bought high. My God. The first season's copyright licensing fee was 40 million. Including the video website's licensing fee and on-demand share. It was estimated to be less than 40 million. Deducting the share to Chili Pepper TV, Tianguang Media's basic income was about 180 million. However, the entire program's production and publicity costs were calculated to be about 180 million. This included the rental of the venue, the construction of the stage equipment, the appearance fees of the celebrity artists, the travel and accommodation fees of the contestants, and various other coordination fees. On the surface, Tianguang Media might be able to break even after completing the entire project, with no profit or loss. As for exporting the copyright overseas in the future, it was something that could only be chanced upon and could not be considered a stable income. On the other hand, Chili Pepper TV was guaranteed to earn 20 million. Of course, doing business was not charity. Risks and benefits coexisted. What was mentioned before was the basic income. But if the program's ratings exceeded expectations, the various income would rise steadily. For example, if the average ratings reached 2%, it would be a guarantee. If the ratings reached between 2% and 5%, the sponsorship fee would increase by 10%. Chili Pepper TV's advertising fee would also increase by 10%, and the copyright licensing fee would increase by 5%. In the terms of the contract, if the national ratings exceeded 5%, and the national online viewership and topic share exceeded 15%, the sponsorship fee would be doubled, and Chili Pepper TV's copyright licensing fee would also increase by 50%. At that time, even if they had to pay more to Chili Pepper TV, the overall plate would be bigger, and the profits that Tianguang Media could earn would be extremely impressive. At that time, what awaited Tianguang Media would be at least 200 million in net profit, as well as the expected income from overseas authorizations. Although Chu Zijin had just entered the industry, she had not let down Chen Guang's trust in her to be able to perfect such a business model in such a short time. The first season of the program had a total of 8 episodes, and they were only recording 4 of them. They were waiting for the first and second episodes to be aired on the satellite to observe the specific effects, and then they could make changes to the content of the next 4 episodes. Of course, the people with special abilities that could be found at the moment could only last for 4 episodes. Now, the production team still had to continue planning and collect program materials from all over the country. Chen Guang had no opinion on the contract that Chu Zijin had signed. He was just worried that the ratings would not be satisfactory. It was a pity that although he was known as the strongest and most versatile variety king, he relied on his own unorthodox methods. It was a little difficult for him to give suggestions. Even if he studied hard and really had the ability to do so, he was not willing to spend his energy on it. His thinking was very simple. Since he had let Chu Zijin take over this responsibility, he would trust her 100% and let her do whatever she wanted. What if they accidentally created a huge IP worth billions of yuan? If the viewership ratings really collapsed, at worst, he would personally participate in the next 4 episodes. Can a person hold in their urine to death? Forget it, he didn't want to think so much. What he needed to think about now was how to deal with the trouble in front of him. He looked back silently at the bloody script in front of him, and then secretly looked at Jiang Yage, who was hiding in the other corner of the coffee shop and discussing with a red face, and Jin Shuriwa, who had just arrived. He thought to himself, can I redo this script? A kissing scene is a kissing scene, I admit it. But what the hell are you doing? After defeating the opponent, spin 720 degrees under the restraint of the boxing ring guardrail for 180 seconds. Would your family stupidly stare at someone kissing on the screen for 3 minutes? Besides, have you ever seen someone kiss in circles while kissing? Gymnastics kissing? Chen Guang turned to look at Big Beard. Uncle. Big Beard Deng's face turned red. Don't look at me like that. I'm innocent too. After I finish filming this movie for Solomon, I've decided to shoot a gay movie without a female lead. I've even thought of the name Brokeback Mountain. You are doing this to avoid Jiang Yage and Jin Shuriwa? Yes. I am old and a little tired. Accompanying Gage to study is really torturous. But isn't this a film made by the great director Lee? Big Beard Deng stretched out 2 fingers. I will do too. I have talked to Old Lee about the copyright, and I will co-direct with him. Chen Guang silently grabbed his hand. I think you may need a... You want to be the male lead? No, I think you need an investor who is not short of money. As the two were talking, Jiang Yage pulled Jin Shirui over. Big Beard, these are the last few scenes. Let's hurry up and shoot today. Jin Shirui wanted to say something, but stopped. Chen Guang and Deng Xiaojing couldn't tell if she was looking forward to it or shy. Chen Guang coughed. I have a cold recently, so it is not suitable for kissing scenes. In fact, it was not that they could not shoot, but if they really shot it according to Jiang Yage's script, he was afraid that the old men in Yanjing would catch them on the spot for a wedding. Big Beard also pinched his fingers. Today is not an auspicious day for shooting, so it is not suitable to go out. It is better to stay at home. The two's struggle did not have any effect, and the next morning, the rest of the crew was dragged to Wujing Film City. Ren Chong, Zhao Yueling, Zhou Ya, and the rest of the lead actors had already left the crew, and the next time they met would probably be when the film was edited and the cinema release was scheduled. Chen Guang pressed the makeup artist on the chair to touch up her makeup, and from time to time, he would secretly look at Jiang Yage and Jin Shirui, who were also putting on makeup, and he could not help but feel a little strange. The stupid script written by Jiang Yage was rejected in the end. After his argument with Big Beard, they cut off the scenes that could not be shown on the big screen, and compressed the crazy 180 seconds into 15 seconds. Stop joking. People would be scolded for being immoral if they spent dozens of dollars to enter the cinema with a close-up kissing scene for 3 minutes. So it was not that the kissing scene could not be filmed, but at least it had to be done normally. His fight had also achieved some results, so it was not difficult to accept. But now, Chen Guang still could not relax, because he had never thought of shooting the kissing scene of Jin Shirui and Jiang Yage at the same time on the same day. In the movie, Jin Shirui played the role of his dead ex-girlfriend, and Jiang Yage played the role of Chen Guang's little fan, who inspired him to fight again when he was middle-aged. The two characters appeared in the movie more than 10 years apart, and even in the movie, one of the scenes was at the beginning and the other at the end, so it did not feel out of place when it was filmed. But Chen Guang did not expect that when it came to the actual filming, things would rush, and people would chase people away. Unknowingly, it had become a kissing scene with both of them on the same day. This was their first kiss on screen. Although it was quite enviable to think about, it was actually very stressful, and not happy at all. Instead, it was super awkward. If this kind of thing were to spread, wouldn't I be hacked to death? In addition, although there were not many people in the crew at this time, at least half of the people in the crew had left. But the rest of the guys might also be making up stories about me in their minds. Chen Guang turned his head and glanced at Yang Shi, who was secretly looking at him. Sure enough, even this guy had a meaningful smile on his face, let alone the others. Do you think I enjoy it? This is simply charaba, okay? Not knowing what Jin Shirui and Jiang Yage were thinking at this time, Chen Guang pricked up his ears again and eavesdropped on their whispers. He thought that if Jin Shirui felt embarrassed, then he would only shoot one scene today, and shoot the kissing scene with another person tomorrow. Although the old man had invincible acting skills, the old man was not ready to sacrifice for art. He could only drag it out for one day. Yage, when I kiss him later, do you think he will stick his tongue out? Sister Shirui, don't worry. No. Jin Shirui's tone was a little disappointed, but also a little relieved. No, with his temper he definitely will. Ah, then what should I do? I'm so embarrassed. I'm a little embarrassed. Jiang Yage patted Jin Shirui's shoulder. Sister Shirui, don't worry. Don't look at how scared you are now. When you give him a hug later, I guarantee that your mind will be blank. At that time, you just need to act as yourself. Big Beard will definitely not say anything. Even if you ask him to say NG, he won't dare. Jin Shirui was relieved, then looked at Jiang Yage again. She wanted to say something but hesitated. That's good, but you... Jiang Yage understood. She knew that Sister Shirui was a little embarrassed that she was shooting with Chen Guang first today, and then it was her turn later. Sister Shirui, what are you thinking? Didn't we never share the cup when we drink together? Jin Shuiwa suddenly realized. It seems so. But don't be too proud. I'll say the ugly words first. Anyway, I've made up my mind. When I shoot my scene later, I will deliberately NG 17 or 18 times. You are the one who is thin-skinned, so don't blame me for being ruthless. Jin Shuiwa made a gesture to pinch Jiang Ye's waist. You so sinister. Sorry for my rudeness. No, I want to NG too. Chen Guang decisively withdrew his power. He really couldn't listen anymore. His mind began to imagine the scene later. Big Beard was hysterically yelling NGs. Then, he gave the two of them a variety of fancy NGs from all sorts of angles, and then took advantage of them. He silently flicked his hair. Too handsome, too charming is also a great trouble. As he turned his head, he saw a group of people walking over from the other side of the set. In the lead was a handsome young man in a white suit. Chapter 996. The man in the white suit was none other than his old acquaintance, Bai Hua. The people around him were all big-bellied and imposing. They were clearly the bosses of various companies. Even so, Bai Hua stood proudly in the crowd, like a crane among chickens. His imposing manner completely overwhelmed everyone else. He truly lived up to his reputation as the first young master of the third generation. Chen Guang's eyes widened. What the hell? Why is brother Bai Hua here at this time? Are you here to mess with me? Bai Hua saw Chen Guang from afar and decisively walked out of the crowd. The others hurriedly followed behind him. Among this group of people, Chen Guang also saw a few old acquaintances, including Lu Chao from Lu Shi culture, Wang Qing's father, Wang Guoxiong, and the big boss of the five capital underworld, fourth master Yin. At this time, all the big bosses' faces were filled with joy. Chen Guang remembered that Bai Hua had previously come to Dechuan province on behalf of Tianyi Energy to discuss a new energy project that would invest tens of billions of yuan. It seemed that the matter would be finalized in a few months. Chen Guang, I've asked around and found out that you're filming here today. Since I'm already nearby, I thought that I might as well pay you a visit. Chairman Liu and the rest also wanted to come over and greet you. I hope I didn't disturb you, right? Bai Hua walked closer and asked with a smile. Chen Guang thought, you're already here. What else can I say? Even if someone really has an opinion, it should be Big Beard Deng's problem, not me. He could only casually wave his hand. It's fine. Bai Hua acted as if he was very familiar with them. He turned around and asked the big bosses to sit down. Big Beard Deng also recognized Bai Hua and the people behind him. He hurriedly came over to say hello, and then quickly ran away. Bai Hua waved at Jin Shuiwa and Jiang Ye, who were putting on makeup on the other side of the room. He then turned around and asked Chen Guang curiously, I heard that you guys are almost done. What scenes are you shooting today? Is it okay for us to watch? I know that your acting skills have already reached the pinnacle. You won't be affected, right? Chen Guang shrugged. It doesn't affect me at all. As for today's scene, he swallowed his saliva, then looked at the other bosses like Lu Chao, who were like curious babies, and sighed. We'll be shooting the kissing scene today. Bai Hua's body trembled. A kiss scene? With whom? Chen Guang's gaze turned to the two women, Jin and Jiang. His eyes were especially deep. Those two. Sure. The people who came to watch the show twitched, and the big shots also had a very unique feeling in their hearts. Their impromptu visit had actually become a historical moment. As half an insider in the entertainment industry, Lu Chao immediately began to popularize science to others. Jin Shuiwa and Jiang Ye never shoot intimate scenes. Chen Guang waved his hand. Director Lu, don't mention this matter. I'm under a lot of pressure. Lu Chao thought that Chen Guang was being modest, and instead said with a face full of envy, Director Chen, you're being too modest. You don't need to feel any pressure. Think about it. The two of them have been in the industry for so many years, and they've filmed so many scenes. Not to mention kissing scenes. Have they even held hands before? No, right? In my opinion, the only person in the entire entertainment industry who can make the two heavenly queens break through their limits and boundaries is you. That's right. If it were anyone else, would the two heavenly queens make such a sacrifice? Nonsense. How can this be called a sacrifice? This is filming. This is the art of film. What do you know? Old Lou is still the one who knows how to speak. As expected of someone in the industry. Anyway, Director Chen, do your best. I won't say much, but on behalf of my company, when your movie is released, our company will directly book the entire theater. Yo, that's a big deal. Old Lee, your company has more than 30,000 employees. Are you going to do it together? Don't tell me you're bragging. The boss, who was called Old Lee, waved his hand nonchalantly. How is this a big deal? My company organizes our employees to watch movies every year. Doesn't it matter who they watch? Of course, we have to watch our own people. The others also chimed in one after another. These guys were indeed shrewd people. Their words were all flattering Chen Guang, but no one expressed any envy. Everyone present was a big shot. Although they might not know the real background of Jin Shiriyue and Jiang Yage, they could roughly guess it, so they did not dare to be envious. That was why things in the world were so interesting. Big shots like Lu Chao and Wang Guoxiong were much more powerful than Bai Shuehe and his son from the Dan family. It was because they stood at a higher position that they could see more things, and their actions were more meaningful. However, Chen Guang did not enjoy their flattery. Instead, he could not sit still, feeling as if he was being roasted on a bonfire. Especially when Bai Hua's expression gradually changed, Chen Guang felt even more unbearable. Brother Bai wanted to say something but hesitated. Perhaps he felt that something was wrong, but everyone here was an outsider, so it was not convenient for him to speak. Finally, when the cameras were about to start shooting, Bai Hua separated himself from the crowd and looked for Chen Guang. He asked, Chen Guang, is this okay? Chen Guang knew what he was referring to. After all, in his heart, he and Jin Shiriyue had always been lovers. Back then, he had fallen in love with Chen Yu, before he was willing to completely give up on Jin Shiriyue. But today, Chen Guang had to shoot kissing scenes with two people at the same time. It was inevitable that he would not feel good. Although their relationship had changed, and it was no longer the love from before, Bai Hua did not want to see Jin Shiriyue feel wronged. How could Chen Guang tell him that not only did Jin Shiriyue not want to feel wronged, but she also wanted to learn from Jiang Yage and crazily take NGs? He had no choice but to pat Bai Hua on the shoulder. Brother Bai, don't worry. I understand. Don't think too much about it. It's just a movie. Isn't this normal for other actors? Bai Hua felt that there was something wrong with his words, but he couldn't refute him. It was not until Chen Guang walked away that he fiercely stomped his feet. Hey, I didn't think it through. I should have asked him just now. Since you said it's a movie, what would you do if Shiriyue and Grace were to shoot kissing scenes with someone else? Didn't he trick them into doing it? Jin Shiriyue was lying quietly on the hospital bed. The makeup on her face was a little pale, and she looked very pale. This was a specially decorated ward. There was a white lily on the windowsill, and the TV was playing a highlights clip of a boxing match. In the movie, the girl's life was about to come to an end. She could close her eyes at any time, never to open them again. But at this moment, her eyes were wide open as she stared at the TV screen. Congratulations! Congratulations to Chun Lei for winning the CBO championship. He's an unprecedented genius. On the TV, the young man she missed day and night was standing in the boxing ring. His eyes were swollen, and it was hard to tell whether his face was covered in blood or sweat. He raised his right hand high and grinned. Even through the screen, one could see the pride in his heart. The scene on the TV changed to a reporter interviewing the boxer, Chun Lei. Mr. Chen, what do you want to say the most at this time? On the TV, Chun Lei was facing the camera. Me. I want to tell my girlfriend, no, my wife. Wife, did you see that? I won. I'm coming home right now. Let's get married. Jin Shiriyue smiled. Her smile was exceptionally sweet, and a faint blush appeared on her pale face. Her face was filled with unparalleled happiness. Cut. Cut. Good, very good. This scene is amazing. Big Beard suddenly shouted cut, and then checked the effects of the scene over and over again. The more he looked, the more satisfied he was. Jin Shiriyue's condition was perfect to the point of being impeccable. Originally, The bearded man was worried that it would be difficult for her to finish the entire scene in one go with this makeup, especially the last one, which was especially difficult. However, when Jin Shuryue squeezed out that faint pink color on her face, the bearded man knew that he had it. From the monitor, the scene was even more perfect. In that instant, Jin Shuryue's expression and the light and shadow in the ward intertwined and brightened the lifeless atmosphere. Although Big Beard was good at plot and rhythm, he was also good at using light and shadow effects. Even if it was just a small scene in a modern drama, he still used his aesthetics to the extreme. After another round of work, he immediately moved on to the next scene. The first scene was about 5 seconds of Chen Guang breaking the door, and Jin Shuryue looking at the door in a daze for about 8 seconds. The scene quickly changed to Chen Guang rushing forward and hugging her. Why? Why didn't you tell me earlier? Why? I didn't want to disturb your training. I wanted to see you win the championship. Didn't I win the championship for you? If you had told me earlier, I would have taken you to the hospital earlier. It's useless, it's useless. This is a terminal illness. Impossible. I won't admit it. It's only been half a year. There's still hope. Chen Guang bent down and hugged Jin Shuryue tightly. His eyes were so gentle that it could melt glaciers. Jin Shuryue's breathing gradually became heavy. She hugged Chen Guang tightly. Don't do this. Kiss me. Why? Because I want to. With that, Jin Shuryue hugged Chen Guang tightly and kissed him. Big Beard waved his hand, and the camera quickly moved forward. Finally, after 10 seconds, Big Beard let out a long breath. Cut. Perfect. Jin Shuryue opened her eyes and let go of him. She only came back to her senses now. That's it. What did I just do? Why can't I remember anything? Did I lose my memory? There was no problem with my acting just now. There was no NG. How did I pass it in one take? Jin Shuryue was a little unhappy. It was such a rare opportunity, but her mind was in a daze. She didn't know anything. She got down from the hospital bed with a thick hospital gown and ran to the monitor with a red face. She checked the effects of the camera with Chen Guang and Big Beard. Only then did she see how she acted. She understood at once. Although she was unconscious at that time, she was brought into the scene by Chen Guang. At that time, she was his first love. She didn't need to think much. She just needed to give her all for the last kiss. The next time she appeared, it would be a funeral photo. Shuryue, your acting is getting better. At this time, Bai Hua also came over and praised her. Although Bai Hua no longer liked Jin Shuryue, seeing such a loving kiss scene, even if it hadn't gone through post-production, still made his heart ache. May all the lovers in the world be together. But he was still waiting for the flower in the mirror and the moon in the water. He didn't even know when it would end. After being praised by Bai Hua, Jin Shuryue felt embarrassed. She stole a glance at Chen Guang, then blushed and ran to the dressing room to remove her makeup. Chen Guang watched from the side for a while, then went to remove her makeup as well. Big Beard and Jiang Yage started to reshoot a few scenes that Chen Guang felt were unsatisfactory before he came to the set. Lu Chao and the others surrounded Bai Hua, keeping a distance from the crew and chatting with one another. President Chen is really a happy winner in life. That's right. Although they said on Weibo that there's nothing between them, I think there's definitely a problem. The way they looked at me just now was amazing. Even I, who doesn't watch movies much, was moved to tears when I knew they were filming. If I didn't treat them as my other half in my heart, wouldn't the acting be too realistic? But there's still a scene with Jiang Yage later. Oh right, President Chen is doing his middle-aged makeup right now, right? Yes. Such a complicated makeup to change his age will probably take an hour or so. I still have a meeting at the company, so I'll take my leave first. Me too. After all, this group of big shots were busy people. They had already given Chen Guang enough face by following Bai Hua over to greet him. With too many people here, it was hard to guarantee that Chen Guang wouldn't feel awkward. Therefore, everyone found an excuse to leave, leaving only Bai Hua, who had nothing else to do today, to stay. Of course, when the big shots left, they couldn't help but feel regretful that they didn't get to see Chen Guang kiss the two heavenly queens in a row. This was also the reason why they left at the last minute. They were really afraid that Chen Guang and Jiang Ye's kissing scene would be so perfect. If that happened, how would they flatter him? It wouldn't be a good thing if they accidentally saw a love triangle between the rich and the powerful. They thought about how some of their descendants were addicted to these two little girls, and then thought about how they could use filming to get close to Chen Guang. They couldn't help but feel heartache for their juniors. Compared to ordinary people, their juniors might be envied as second-generation rich kids. But compared to Chen Guang, their second-generation rich kids were really embarrassing. Little Chen was really amazing. In just half a year, he had gone from being an ordinary student to the top. Even young Master Bai from Yanjing, who came to Wujing, specially came to greet him. With this kind of treatment and status, it wouldn't be wrong to say that he was the #1 young master in China. Unfortunately, he didn't have any background. If his good-for-nothing sons had 1/10 of his ability, it would be enough to comfort his old heart. About 3 hours later, at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the second kiss scene officially began. Because this was the last part of the boxing match, the props had to be completely restored to the previous scenes. As for the extras, they didn't have to worry too much. It would be fine as long as the extras were glued to the extras in the post-production. In addition, some of the main audience members who had lines and close-ups also came to the set today. Bai Hua stood far beside Big Beard and looked at the monitor with him. When he saw Chen Guang kissing Jiang Ye again, and Jiang Ye crying tears of happiness, he also unknowingly teared up. He didn't know that even though he was separated by more than 20 meters, he was still dragged into the world of acting by Chen Guang. At this time, his mind was turning over and over again, and all he could think about was the tall girl, who he bitterly loved, but didn't respond to. The love in the movie is so happy, but why is my life so bitter? Bai Hua silently turned his face away, not wanting to let others see his tears. He really wanted to drink a glass of wine and then forget everything. Chapter 997. Cut. Okay. Perfect. We're really done this time. Bai Hua was lost in thought when Big Beard Deng, who was sitting next to him, suddenly shouted. He stood up from his chair with a face full of excitement, waving his hands and feet. Bai Hua was shocked. He looked at Big Beard's back. Even though he couldn't see his face, he could feel the excitement and vigor coming from him. He didn't look like an old man in his 50s at all. On the big set, the other crew members also raised their arms and cheered. For many people in the crew, the months-long filming had finally come to an end. Although it was faster than they had imagined, when the dust finally settled, they still felt a sense of satisfaction, as if the long journey had finally come to an end. This was also a kind of relief. Chen Guang was still lying on the edge of the boxing ring, his head hanging in the air. Jiang Ye supported his head from below, still crying. She desperately moved her mouth closer to Chen Guang's. Not only that, but her tongue was also desperately moving forward. When she was chatting with Jin Shiriyue, she had put it nicely. The two of them were still wondering if Chen Guang would stick his tongue out. Previously, when Chen Guang and Jin Shiriyue were filming, it was Jin Shiriyue who was completely pulled into the scene and took the initiative to attack. Now it was Jiang Ye who was also pulled into the scene, because she was playing the role of a particularly active and youthful beautiful girl fan. Her performance was even more aggressive than Jin Shiriyue's. From the start of the scene, she wanted to rub Chen Guang's neck into her body. Her tongue was like an electric drill, straight into his body. At that time, Chen Guang didn't avoid it. As the world's best actor, he brought others into the scene, and he himself was also in the scene. But now that Big Beard had clearly shouted cut, and the others had already started cheering, Chen Guang had instantly broken away from his acting, but Jiang Ye was still immersed in it. Imagine the scene at this moment. The others were raising their arms and cheering, flying hats and congratulating each other in various ways. But he and Jiang Ye were still kissing nonstop. It was really quite awkward. He tried to speak, but this woman was too unreserved. Do you want me to eat your tongue? He couldn't speak, afraid that she would accidentally bite him. At this moment, Chen Guang wanted to push her away, but he was in an awkward position. So when he forcefully pushed his head up, he ended up landing on her chest instead. Although when there was no one around, not to mention touching it, it wouldn't be a problem even if he held it in his hands and molded it into all sorts of shapes. But now they were in public. There were so many people, especially Brother Bai, who was watching. In Bai Hua's heart, he and Jin Shirihua were the ones who had that kind of relationship. If he acted too intimately with Jiang Yage in front of him, it would seem like he was letting her down. Chen Guang knew that his thoughts were quite shameless, so other than this kissing scene, he had been trying very hard to keep his distance from Jin Shirihua. But just from Jin Shirihua's kiss, which was almost like her acting, Chen Guang knew that his efforts were probably in vain. The hardest thing to manipulate was the human heart. The tree may desire peace, but the wind will not subside. He had even said something as heartless as breaking up. So how could he push Jin Shirihua away? What made him even more distressed was that this matter would actually be better handled by Jiang Yage. But it was obvious that Jiang Yage didn't want to have a showdown with Jin Shirihua. She hid the fact that the two of them had already had a relationship from Jin Shirihua, and even gave Jin Shirihua advice. Chen Guang was speechless. He didn't know what the obsessed Jiang Yage was thinking. Bai Hua was still sitting in the same place. The cameraman left the camera and went to celebrate. He didn't turn off the power. At this time, he was still looking at the two of them kissing passionately. He had never acted before, so he didn't know how to evaluate the current situation. But he had already found an explanation for the two of them. He heard that really good actors had a process of getting into and out of character. Maybe the two of them were too immersed in character and couldn't come out of it for a while. Although Bai Hua hadn't read the script, he could feel the sincerity of the two characters. The more he thought about it, the more envious he was. The happier the others on the set were, the lonelier he felt. Finally, the set gradually quieted down. They couldn't be excited for long. What awaited Big Beard Deng and the other directors was the next step of the special effects and editing work. They still had a lot of work to do. One after another, people noticed that Chen Guang and Jiang Yage were still kissing. Many of them pinched their fingers and counted. It had been about 4 to 5 minutes, right? Aren't you guys a little too much showing off your affection in and out of the show? Chen Guang was really embarrassed. He secretly reached out to scratch Jiang Yage's armpit. Ha 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 ha. Jiang Yage couldn't hold it anymore. She giggled and stepped back. She said unhappily, "What are you doing? Be more serious when you're filming. Don't disturb me." Chen Guang shrank back into the middle of the boxing ring, and then stood up straight. "You still have the cheek to say that to me? We've already finished filming, okay? It's completely finished." Jiang Yage was stunned. "How is that possible? We just kissed. It was at most 5 seconds. Chen Guang really didn't want to talk to her. "Thank you, it's been 5 minutes. Jiang Yage exclaimed. "Ah, it can't be right? Where did all the time go?" Chen Guang shrugged. "I haven't even had the chance to enjoy my youth, and I'm already old." Big Beard and the other main cast members couldn't help but laugh. They all thought that Jiang Yage was completely immersed in her character. She even bumped into the joke of 10,000 years in a blink of an eye. At this moment, Jin Shirihua, who was extremely envious of Jiang Yage, also walked up and patted her on the shoulder. "All right, the movie is really finished this time. Go and remove your makeup." Jiang Yage quietly helped Jin Shirihua up and looked in Chen Guang's direction reluctantly. She said to Jin Shirihua in a low voice, "I haven't even NG yet. It's only been 1 shot. I can't take it lying down." "I didn't either." "That's true." Chen Guang also cupped his hands in greeting to everyone. He had intended to remove his makeup, but he saw that the main cast members were all staring at him. He didn't know what he was thinking, but his brain worked for a moment. He said casually, "It's rare for the movie to be finished. Uncle, don't work tonight. Why don't we all find a place in Wujing for a meal? It can be considered a celebration." Deng Xiaojing was stunned at first, but he immediately reacted. He thought to himself that this kid had really changed a lot in the past few months. He had matured and become more stable. He didn't even need me to remind him. He had taken the initiative to treat the entire crew to a meal to celebrate. He was no longer the willful college student who did things his own way. but the real boss Chun, who had the demeanor of a general. Of course you have to treat. You are the biggest investor of the movie. For many people in the crew, a treat from someone else might be a social event that they didn't want to waste their time on. But for the #1 internet celebrity in China, the boss of the movie investment company, and the person who had led the entire cast and crew to great heights in the past 2 months, it was naturally a big deal. There was another round of joyous noise on the set. Chen Guang saw that everyone was happy, and he was also happy. He greeted Bai Hua. "Brother Bai, since you are here, don't leave tonight. Let's go eat together." Bai Hua subconsciously wanted to refuse, but before he could say anything, Chen Guang turned around and went to the makeup room. "Sai, forget it. He has already invited me. If I don't go, it'll be a little disrespectful." Bai Hua didn't know how to describe his feelings at the moment. Everyone else was so happy, but his heart was heavy. He couldn't feel happy. He also knew that this wasn't good, but he couldn't control his feelings. Forget it. He would just find an excuse to leave when he came out later. But it was rare for him to come here, so he had to ask Chen Guang about Chen Yu. He was really unwilling to just leave like this. While he was worrying about his gains and losses, Bai Hua finally followed the crew to the most famous place in Wujing City, Everyday Fishing Bay. When the 2 buses, 4 MPVs, and Chen Guang's Passat stopped together, it was already 8 o'clock at night. However, the staff of Everyday Fishing Bay, who had received the call, had already lined up in a long line at the entrance. A red carpet led from the entrance to the hall inside, stretching for more than 100 meters. An eye-catching red banner was hung at the entrance of the hall. It read, "A warm welcome to the crew of women for dinner at Everyday Fishing Bay. May women do well at the box office." From the time old Ma, the floor manager, made the call to reserve seats to the boss of Everyday Fishing Bay, it took less than 2 hours. The respect expressed by the boss was evident. This old restaurant, which had a history of decades, was known as the best fish in Wujing. In addition to the authentic taste and great reputation, Chen Guang chose this restaurant for another purpose. This restaurant was located in Shuanghe County, a suburb of Wujing, which happened to be very close to the campus of Gokyo University in Shuanghe. After dinner, he could easily stroll back to school by himself and call Lin Jingwei and the others to have a sumptuous meal. Chen Guang, who was walking at the front, cupped his hands to greet others and marveled in his heart. He didn't expect that he would receive such treatment just by leading a team to have a meal. Things were different now. In the past, in order to have a sumptuous meal here, everyone in the dorm had to reserve seats at least a month in advance. After paying the bill, they had to pinch their fingers and count how many steamed buns they would have to eat for the next month. He had mixed feelings. No wonder so many people were after fame and power. People living at the top of the pyramid were much more convenient than ordinary people. Even if it was just a small meal, they could enjoy benefits that ordinary people couldn't imagine. He called a few of his buddies in the dorm. He wanted to call Gaoya and Sun Xiaoxuan, but in the end, only Lin Jingwei came. Xiong'er and Bai Fan invited someone to play basketball, while Gaoya and Sun Xiaoxuan were busy with the student council. "I think Sun doesn't want to come." After everyone was settled, Chen Guang went downstairs alone to wait for Lin Jingwei, which was what he said the moment he arrived. Chen Guang couldn't do anything about it. "I didn't think it through." Chapter 998. Lin Jingwei looked at him and sighed. "Sometimes I wonder, are you the second-generation heir? Or am I the second-generation heir? Compared to you, I'm really the perfect man, the kind that you can't find even if you look for a lantern. Let's not talk about me, just look at Brother Xiaobai. He's a handsome man, a gentleman, and the number of girls who like him can form a line from Zizaman to the Olympic Village. But he's also hanging his heart on you, you crooked tree. Say, look at how innocent we are. Standing with a decent person like me, Brother Guang, is it stressful for you?" Sai. Chen Guang felt uneasy after hearing what Lin Jingwei said. All right. It's all my fault." Seeing Chen Guang sigh, Lin Jingwei comforted him again. "All right, I understand. It's not all your fault. Everyone has emotions and desires. With your personality, you can't take the initiative. Otherwise, you'd be able to open an imperial palace. I'm not blaming you. I just feel that this is a little unfair to the class representative. Gao Yu often talks to me about the class representative. She wants me to advise you. But I can't give you any advice. What are your plans? Are you going to hide like this for the rest of your life? What if the class rep doesn't give up, and you leave her all alone? Chen Guang felt even more helpless. You just said that I'm a playboy. Why do you want me to give the class rep an answer now? I've tried, but she won't give up. What I mean is, since you're already a playboy, why are you so shy? Why don't you just give her the title of class rep? I can't do it. I'm not good enough for her. Lin Jingwei rolled his eyes. I'm really impressed by the two of you. Even your excuses are so similar. Let's not talk about this. Let's eat. Chen Guang pulled Lin Jingwei into the private room and asked him to sit on the other side of Bai Hua. There were more than 60 people in the crew, but only a few of them were able to sit in the private room. Only Big Beard Deng and a few other assistant directors, as well as Yang Shi and Old Ma, Chen Guang, Jiang Yage, Jin Shiyue and Bai Hua, and now Lin Jingwei. The large round table was just about full. Lin Jingwei didn't want to make Chen Guang's mood too heavy, so after sitting down, he took the initiative to chat with Bai Hua. But after all, this wasn't like in private. They couldn't talk about the matters in the imperial city of Beijing, so they could only talk about other things. In the end, after just a few words, Lin Jingwei brought up a sore spot and asked, Brother Xiaobai, you went to visit the filming crew today? What kind of scenes did they shoot? How did it feel to watch a movie for the first time? Bai Hua, who had finally calmed down, felt a lump in his throat again. It was pretty good. Pretty good? Was it Brother Guang who acted well? Or was the movie itself good? Brother Xiaobai, are you interested in investing in a movie? We've all seen it online. It's pretty easy to invest in a movie these days. Although most of the people in the private room didn't know who Lin Jingwei was. Seeing that he was quite familiar with Bai Hua, they could roughly guess that this classmate of Chen Guang wasn't simple. They all chimed in, saying that with CEO Bai's status and wealth, it wouldn't be surprising for him to invest in a movie. Even Jiang Yage was interested. She pulled Jin Shiyue over and said that if they really wanted to shoot a movie, they might not have the time to be the main characters. But it wouldn't be a problem for them to make a cameo appearance. Bai Hua's eyes were fixed on Chen Guang. Chen Guang, if I invest in a movie, can you help me get your sister, Chen Yu, to play the female lead role? Chen Guang, who was drinking water, almost spat it on Bai Hua's face. Huh? Who will be the male lead? Bai Hua blushed. Me. The moment he said that, Chen Guang, Lin Jingwei, and Jiang Yage were all dumbfounded. Brother Xiaobai was really going all out. This guy had obviously seen Chen Guang's kissing scene today, and wanted to take advantage of her. Chen Guang placed his right foot on Lin Jingwei's foot under the table, and rubbed it with all his might before forcefully putting on an act, and said with difficulty, My big sister doesn't like to show her face in public. Bai Hua sighed again. You're right. I was too impulsive. Please apologize to him on my behalf. Impulsive my ass. Apologize my ass. Let's not talk about whether Chen Yu really existed. Even if there was such a person, no one had heard what you said. There was no need for you to apologize. As long as you can borrow my mouth to speak to the non-existent Chen Yu, you will be satisfied, right? There's no need to apologize. It's not a big deal. Chen Guang evaded. On the other side, Jiang Yage knew that Chen Yu was Chen Guang in disguise. She knew that the more she said, the more mistakes she would make. She quickly stopped talking and pulled Jin Shiyue to look at the food on the table. Bai Hua fiercely drained the cup in front of him, choking and coughing twice. He then said, Actually, the apology is fake. I just want to see her. At this time, the other people at the table also read the meaning. They all praised that Chen Yu must be an unparalleled person to be able to get CEO Bai's favor. Bai Hua felt honored by the praise. No one forced him to drink. He filled his glass again and drained it. Then he cupped his hands to the crowd. Director Deng, you're right. I'm not afraid to say it as a joke. Ordinary women can't enter my eyes. But ever since I met Miss Chen Yu, Although it's not exaggerated to say that I can't eat or drink, I really can't accept other people. I don't want to judge her appearance. It's blasphemy to only look at her appearance. But in my opinion, in this world, no woman can compare to her temperament. Even if I say this in front of Shuriwei and Solomon, I'll say it. Solomon, don't you think so? Bai Hua drank a bit too much. Jiang Yage secretly looked at Chen Guang, whose face was so red that he wanted to hang himself. She nodded. Brother Bai is right. I really can't compare to Chen Yu's temperament. She began to sympathize with Bai Hua again. She lifted her foot and stepped on Chen Guang's left foot. As a result, Chen Guang's right foot stepped on Lin Jingwei, while his left foot was stepped on by Jiang Yage, creating a terrible cycle. Big Beard Deng's eyes widened. So amazing. Listening to CEO Bai, I really want to see it. Maybe she's really a natural-born movie queen. Chen Guang, you have such a sister? Chen Guang squeezed out a smile. My sister doesn't want to be a star. Bai Hua, who was next to him, took advantage of the fact that no one was paying attention and gulped down another glass. Chen Guang is right. Oh right, last time I asked you to help me bring her a letter. What did she say after reading it? Chen Guang didn't know how to answer him. He just gritted his teeth and thought, I can't let this guy continue to play. I really want to ask Lu Li for a pill that can erase other people's memories and stuff it into his stomach. Since you're so shameless, then don't blame me for being ruthless. Take this, it's even more ruthless than the good guy card. He coughed lightly. My sister said that she's indebted to you, but it's not fate. She already has someone in her heart. Bai Hua froze as if he had been hit by a heavy blow. His emotions became a little too agitated as he poured himself another glass. Just as he was about to send it to his mouth, Lin Jingwei, who was beside him, quickly snatched it away. Brother Xiaobai, you've drunk too much. Unexpectedly, Bai Hua abruptly pulled his right hand back, shoved the bottle into his mouth and drained it. He slammed the table and shouted hysterically. This it? Can you tell me who it is? I want to know why I lost. Why? The atmosphere at the table suddenly became very strange. It was supposed to be a good celebration party, but a person of extraordinary status got himself drunk at the table. He was hurt by love and made a scene in front of everyone. It was a complete letdown. If it had been someone else, Big Beard would probably have chased them away with a glare, and the rest of the crew wouldn't have given him any face. But this was Bai Hua, the current vice president of Tianjin Energy, the person who had the power to control tens of billions of cash flow. Ever since he returned to China, he had become the new head of a huge state-owned enterprise that was very popular in the Chinese business world. Even though his current position had little to do with the entertainment industry, everyone knew that such a person would have a terrifying influence in China in the future. If anyone dared to offend him, he didn't have to do anything. He just needed to put on a show. And besides a famous director like Big Beard, everyone at the table would lose their jobs. Who could afford to offend him? Everyone didn't expect this. Wasn't this young CEO, by quite an experienced person in the news? Why was his condition so strange today? Everyone at the table looked at each other, as if they were sitting on pins and needles. They didn't know whether to stand or leave. They all felt that they had seen something they shouldn't have seen. If Mr. Bai sobered up later and remembered that he had embarrassed himself at the table, he might even hold a grudge against the others who had seen him at the table. This was King embarrassing. Chen Guang also didn't expect that a good meal would turn into such a situation. He was also angry. This is my celebration party. Aren't you hurting my reputation by acting like a drunkard here? Besides, your alcohol tolerance is a bit bad. Brother Bai, you drank too much. Lin Jingwei could hear the anger in his heart, so he tried to smooth things over. Chen Guang, stop it. Brother Bai doesn't usually drink white wine, so he lost control a bit. You know this the best. It's really bitter. Bai Hua's mind didn't listen to what Lin Jingwei was saying. He continued to stare straight at Chen Guang. He stammered, I'm sorry, Chen Guang. I didn't mean to make things difficult for you. I just can't accept it. I'm sorry. I beg you to understand me. I've never felt this way before. I can't explain it to you. but I really treated her wholeheartedly. I also know that forced melons won't be sweet. Feelings can't be one-sided. I understand that. I just don't understand. I don't understand. I'm not trying to take revenge. I'm not that kind of person. If it's really inconvenient for you to tell me who that person is, then you can describe to me what kind of person he is. I can't. I can't lose without knowing why. Bai Hua's tone became much gentler. His current state was that of a person who was drunk, but didn't think he was drunk. After saying some nonsense, he temporarily regained some sobriety and felt ashamed of his drunken antics. In his heart, Chen Guang felt that Chen Yu was a fictional character, and the person she was in love with was even more fictional. You want me to describe a fictional person's fictional lover? Aren't you forcing me to bluff? At that moment, Jiang Yage poked his waist from the side. Chen Guang turned his head to look at her. Jiang Yage's eyes darted to the door from time to time. Her original intention was to think of a way to drag Bai Hua away. They couldn't stay here any longer. Chen Guang pretended to be enlightened. He looked at Jiang Yage with his mouth slightly agape and his eyes wide open. Jiang Yage cursed in her heart. What did you understand? She wanted to say something, but it was too late. Chen Guang turned his head to look at Bai Hua and took a deep breath. Brother Bai, I really didn't want to tell you this. But if you really want to ask, I have no other choice. Speak. Bai Hua's eyes were hazy. Chen Guang said resolutely. My sister said that how can people of different genders fall in love? She likes gentle, petite, and adorable girls. Bai Hua's eyes widened, and his face became paler. His defeat was downright hopeless. Never in his wildest dreams would he have thought that he would lose to a man. The woman I like also likes women. No wonder my hot blood couldn't be exchanged for even the slightest bit of response. I used the wrong force. Why is my life so bitter? The most frightening thing was that the air suddenly became quiet. But in that instant, the private room was completely silent. Everyone's mouth was wide open, forming an O shape. Lin Jingwei, who was standing behind Bai Hua, had a look of despair on his face. My brother Guang, you really dare to King trick me. Jiang Yage clutched her chest, feeling that her heart was about to explode. Only Jin Shiyue, who had seen Chen Yu before but didn't know anything, had a look of enlightenment. She subconsciously said, no wonder. When I saw Chen Yu in Beijing, I felt that she was especially manly. She had a little temperament in that aspect. Don't say any more. Bai Hua clutched his chest, his right hand holding the wine bottle, stumbling out of the room step by step. I'm going out for a breath of fresh air. Chen Guang, Lin Jingwei, and Jin Jiang hurriedly followed him out. Before leaving the room, Chen Guang turned around and apologized to the others in the private room. Everyone, I'm sorry, but Brother Bai didn't mean any harm. You guys continue to eat. We'll find a way to send him to rest. Don't take it to heart. Big Beard and the others nodded, not daring to take it to heart. They only wished that they could lose their memories after tonight. They were 2 steps late. When Chen Guang and the others came out, Bai Hua was pulled by Lin Jingwei and poured the remaining half bottle of white wine into his mouth. Lin Jingwei was so anxious that he jumped up and down. Brother Bai, don't. The few of them crowded out the door under the surprised gaze of the daily fishing bay's waitress. Bai Hua didn't even take 2 steps before the wind blew against him. He held onto the tree next to him and began to vomit. However, he didn't sober up after vomiting. Instead, he became even more drunk. He struggled out of Lin Jingwei and Chen Guang's hands, tears streaming down his face. He didn't look like a graceful gentleman at all. He looked like a destitute young man who was trapped by love. The way he was, it would only make people sad and cry. I feel terrible. I want a drink. I want to drink. Chen Guang raised his hand and wanted to knock Bai Hua out. Lin Jingwei stopped him and shook his head slightly. Forget it. Let him vent. Your internal force should be able to prevent him from dying, right? Chen Guang retracted his hand. That won't happen. Then let him drink as much as he wants. This can't go on like this. It's too torturous. Let him give up completely. Brother Guang, do me a favor. I beg you. Other than the few of you, I only have Brother Bai as a friend. Seeing him like this, my heart feels terrible. If we knew it would be like this, we would have thought of something else. I'm also guilty. Chen Guang sighed. Fine. Didn't you drink? You drive to Chief Lu's club and let him drink as much as he wants. Sigh. Unfortunately, there's no medicine for regret in this world. Alcohol can only poison the intestines. Thus, the group of people drove Chen Guang's Passat. Jiang Yage drove. Jin Shirua sat in the front passenger seat, and Chen Guang and Lin Jingwei sat in the back. One on the left and the other on the right. They carried Bai Hua towards the city. When they first got on the car, Bai Hua was still quiet. However, halfway through the journey, Bai Hua finally did something that made Chen Guang break out in a cold sweat. He took out his phone and turned to look at Chen Guang. Chen Guang, let me see your sister. I swear this is the last time I'll mention this. I want to hear the words you said to me from her mouth. Otherwise, I won't believe it. Just when Chen Guang was about to reject, Bai Hua waved his phone and continued. I took a photo of you outside the Silver Bull Hotel and saved it in my web drive. I originally planned to delete it and never mention it again. I know that you won't be happy about it, and it doesn't matter if you hate me in the future. But I just want to see her one last time. For this, I can do anything. After today, I'm going to empty my network disk, and I'll never mention it again. Damn. Okay. Looking at Lin Jingwei and Jin Shirua, who were puzzled and looking at him, Lord Guang finally gave up. He would never let Lin Jingwei see a photo of him wearing a pink chiffon nightgown. In addition, Brother Xiaobai, you're too much of a braver person with alcohol. Brother Guang, what kind of photo is it? Lin Jingwei asked curiously. Scram. Chen Guang only gave him one word. Chapter 999. If he had a choice, he really didn't want the legendary Chen Yu to reappear. He felt that this was a stain on his life. If he could strangle his other self, he would rather let Chen Yu die. Unfortunately, he couldn't do it. Compared to a stain that Lin Jingwei already knew about, Chen Guang was more willing to hide another stain. At the very least, Lin Jingwei was involved in the whole matter of him pretending to be Chen Yu. Moreover, he was the one who got into it, so he couldn't absolve himself from the blame. He couldn't laugh at himself about this. But if this guy found out that he was wearing women's clothing when he was free, and that it was a sexy and revealing female clothing, Chen Guang was worried that he would have to kill him to silence him. After all, Lin Jingwei was only a little over 20 years old. He still had a lot of years ahead of him. It might be too cruel to let him die at such a young age. So since Bai Hua said that this was the last time, forget it. He would just pinch his nose and bear it. After all, there was still Jin Shirua present. If more people saw the photo in Bai Hua's hands, Chen Guang really didn't know how he would face the rest of his life. Of course, Brother Xiaobai had completely abandoned his integrity. They were already so familiar with each other. But he actually secretly took photos and then threatened him afterwards. Later on, he would definitely give him the most painful stab. This is the path you chose. And this one is also doing it for your own good. Instead of letting you suffer for no reason, why don't I, the old man, transform into a fairy and purify you? I want you to completely give up. I want your heart to shatter into ashes. I want you to directly escape into the void. I want you to be afraid of women in the future. There's no end to this. You're still pestering me. When they arrived at the clubhouse, Jiang Yage and Jin Shirua covered their faces before entering. Although this was Lu Chao's territory, Chen Guang still didn't want the news to appear on tomorrow's news headlines that Chen Guang and Jiang Yage visited a private clubhouse together. Since he quietly entered the private room and sat down, Lin Jingwei waved the check to greet the waiter. In short, he asked the waiter in the club to behave and not disturb him. Bai Hua sat on the sofa for about 10 seconds before he turned around and looked at Chen Guang anxiously. Chen Guang couldn't deny it. Sigh, alright. Don't look at me like that. I'll go look for her now. Is she really in the 5 capitals? Bai Hua was overjoyed. What else could Chen Guang say? He nodded and said, It's really there, and it's very close to here. Okay, you guys go ahead and sing. I'll be back soon. Bai Hua jumped up from the sofa and said, Jingwei, help me get a dozen beers. I want to boost my courage. The others also didn't want to talk to him. How can you boost your courage with your current courage? Your CEO bye. And you don't even want your face anymore. How can you boost your courage? Are you trying to boost your cholecystitis? On the other side, Chen Guang pulled Jiang Yage and ran away. After all, he pretended to come out to pick them up, but he was drunk. He couldn't violate his principle of never driving after drinking. So, Jiang Yage had to be his designated driver. After the two walked out of the private room, Chen Guang personally went to buy out the private room next door. He was very familiar with this move. What should we do now? Jiang Yage seemed excited and nervous. Even though she had already seen Chen Guang's good deed, she didn't expect to have the opportunity to personally participate in his cross-dressing process. This was a wonderful experience that couldn't be found anywhere else. Chen Guang shrugged. What else can we do? Put on makeup. Did you bring anything? Jiang Yage shook her head. I usually only put on some light makeup. I only bring some foundation with me. I'm afraid it'll be difficult. Then, do you know how to put on makeup? How good are you compared to Sister Hua? Jiang Yage knew who Sister Hua was the moment she heard her name. She said cheerfully, to be honest, I learned from Sister Hua. Sister Hua said that I'm only a fingernail away from her. Chen Guang thought for a moment. That's good. I'll call someone to send something over. Chen Guang thought that he couldn't let Big Beard Ding know about this. Luckily, he still had the phone number of boss Hao Yukai, the CEO of Iris Flower Prop Company. Although it was a bit difficult to ask someone to send the equipment over at 10 o'clock at night, his face was bigger than the sky. Boss Hao shouldn't have any objections. Hao Yukai jumped 3 feet high after the phone call. He asked for the location and the equipment requirements. He immediately patted his chest and said that his company wasn't far from here, and the equipment would arrive in half an hour at most. Chen Guang's request was simple. He wanted the special makeup equipment that the guy who sang The Drunken Concubine used on stage. He also wanted a suit. Chen Guang didn't know what Hao Yukai wanted, but it shouldn't be much. After all, Sister Hua, the #1 magic artist in Beijing, had only carried a suitcase over. As for why he wanted these things, he wouldn't explain it to Hao Yukai. Boss Hao wouldn't ask either. As long as Chen Guang owed him a favor, he would be more than happy. In just 25 minutes, Hao Yukai personally carried the bags, and even brought a makeup artist to the rescue. How could Chen Guang let someone he didn't trust see his ugly appearance? If word got out, he wouldn't be able to face the world anymore. Since Jiang Yage was there, Chen Guang decisively sent everyone away. Then, Chen Guang used his phone to search for the photos he had taken when he was Chen Yu and asked Jiang Yage to compare them. About 40 minutes later, the supermodel Chen Yu reappeared. Jiang Yage looked at her work of art with satisfaction. When I don't want to sing or act anymore, I can steal Sister Hua's business, she said as she poked Chen Guang's fake breasts. So annoying, it's more bouncy than mine. Stop it. It's been an hour. Go back to the room next door, and tell them I'll be there soon. Will Chen Yu be there soon, or will Chen Guang be there soon? Slapping her butt, Chen Guang roared. I told you to stop fooling around. But your voice right now. It's okay. Don't worry about me. I have a way. Jiang Yage responded. Then, she looked at Chen Guang up and down happily, before going back to the room next door. Chen Guang took out a cup from his bag, and called out to Liu Li in his mind. Unfortunately, there was no response. He had no choice but to clench his teeth and sink into the cup. As soon as he went in, he was greeted by a fist. Lu Ming's cheering came from afar. Sister Liu Li, quick. He's here again. Beat him up. Chen Guang quickly covered his face. Stop it. This is a critical moment. Don't ruin my face. Pfft. Liu Li's fist didn't hit his face in the end. Instead, she laughed. This idiot, pretending to be a woman again. Lu Ming also laughed and waved his big green fruit. Yo, I couldn't tell. You're pretty good looking. This guy really knows how to have fun. He's self-sufficient. Chen Guang touched his chest. There's something. What the hell? He didn't know what was wrong with the heavenly holy grail today. It brought in the makeup it put on outside. Usually, he would run away decisively. But now he was under the eaves. Let me lower my head first. The situation is urgent. Don't tease me. I just want to settle this mess. Help me. I will never forget your kindness. Lioli rolled her eyes. It's not impossible for me to help. I won't hold it against you for blowing me up last time. But I only have one request. You don't want me to ask about the 170 million, right? No matter how slow-witted Chen Guang was, he should have guessed the situation. If it had been in the past, he would have been so distressed that he would have wanted to fight Lioli to the death. But now he was not so short of money. He could still bear the loss of 170 million yuan. Although it was still painful, he had to accept it. You're smart. Lioli nodded contentedly. All right. I won't ask anymore. Actually, I knew that you, the Divine Emperor's financial butler, wasn't reliable from the television dramas you watched. You're still talking. You're still exposing my scars. I won't talk anymore. Chen Guang didn't admit it verbally, but in his heart he was cursing. A person's shamelessness was invincible. A god's shamelessness could destroy the world. If you squander, then so be it. Why is it so hard to admit a failure and mistake? You're allowed to make mistakes, but you can't let others correct you? I'm not blaming you. Looks like I have to beat you up today. Damn it. How could I forget that she can hear my cursing in my heart? But Lioli didn't go too far. She was just scaring him. When Chen Guang came out of the world in the cup, he coughed lightly. His voice had changed back to the perfect Chen Yu voice. All right. He took a deep breath. The world-class acting was on again. Forget it. I'll forcefully hypnotize myself first. Thinking about it carefully, weren't most of the actresses in Peking opera played by the teachers? That was called art. It was called creation. I treated it as a play, a movie. Today, I'm going to act as a handsome tea who likes girls. Art comes from life. Life is the highest level of art. Although I'm not standing on the stage, nor am I singing Peking opera, my life is a play. A play is like life. Thinking about it this way, he felt at ease. Then he prepared to open the door. But just as his hand touched the doorknob, he quickly retracted it and hid behind the door. Jiang Yage and Jin Shiyue's voices came from outside. He didn't know why Jiang Yage came out with Jin Shiyue the moment she went in. Sister Shiyue, you're really something. Why are you drinking wine? It's not good for your throat. You don't have a high tolerance for alcohol. Jiang Yage rebuked Jin Shiyue. Lin Jingwei drank alone with Bai Hua. He can't take it anymore. I saw that he was pitiful, so I wanted to help him finish off some of the beer. I didn't expect that I couldn't take it anymore. I only drank 1.5 bottles, and my head is already dizzy. Jin Shiyue's voice sounded a little drunk. Hey, why do you care about them? With Chen Guang around, they won't be in trouble no matter how much they drink. You don't know his martial arts. It's amazing. Didn't you say he had something to do and left first? Oh yes. But if something really happens, I'll call him and ask him to come back. The two chatted as they walked away. They were preparing to go to the toilet to vomit for a while. Chen Guang wasn't in a hurry to go out. He planned to wait until the two returned to their room. After waiting for 3 or 4 minutes, their voices came from outside again. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.